This guy barely awakens and instantly lands a legendary skill. Now, he can finally unleash the ultimate power he gained from being a gamer virgin for 11 years straight. The moment the apocalypse kicked off, he made a beeline for the magical items. But by the time he reached the secret spot, he was too late. The free-for-all had already begun. 5 minutes before he got there, this girl and her spry 80-year-old companion had beaten him to the punch. With the world in chaos, a crowd had gathered to snatch up the artifacts, and people were already brawling over every single piece. That's when our guy yelled for everyone to back the hell off, which definitely got their attention. He then announced he was taking the whole lot for himself. Naturally, nobody was about to just step aside. But when the man flexed his awakened powers to prove he was top dog, the old man unleashed something far more terrifying, incinerating him into a pile of ash without a second thought. "That's what you get for your arrogance," the old man quipped. The girl, Yuri, then declared that every item in the tower belonged to her and her grandpa. Anyone have a problem with that? They could take it up with her right now. But then, Kang Jin Hyuk casually strolled past, acting as if she wasn't even there. His focus was entirely on the magical items. "Look what you did," he said. "You almost destroyed something this valuable." Annoyed at being disrespected, the girl summoned her Anubis to attack. A single blow from that creature could kill anyone, no exaggeration. But as that deadly spear closed in, the MC simply batted it away with one punch. An attack that should have leveled a building was just gone. The girl's jaw hit the floor, and so did everyone else's. The thing is, none of them had a clue who Kang Jin really was. Our hero then rated the girl's skill a measly 5 out of 10. Infuriated, she summoned 4 more statues. Jinhyuk looked completely overwhelmed by this display of power. Just look at his face, trembling with shock and absolute terror. The girl could tell he wasn't intimidated, but it made no sense. These were giant, deadly, powerful warriors. That's when Jinhyuk admitted it. The girl's power wasn't bad, and the old man was clearly skilled. But compared to him, they were just pathetic amateurs. The girl shot back that she couldn't stand him. He was unbelievably arrogant and full of himself. Jinhyuk just asked what the line was between arrogance and having complete confidence in one's own strength. To prove he had every right to look down on her, Jinhyuk used an amulet he'd just picked up. If she wanted a summon battle, he'd show her a truly powerful beast, as the mountain god tiger received the order to annihilate everyone. Pure terror shot through Yuri's body. That tiger devoured her summons like they were cheap appetizers. The thought of becoming the main course left her utterly hopeless. Was this the end? Dying a virgin even though she was a total knockout. But when Jinhyuk walked over with a smirk, she thought maybe her luck was about to change. Jinhyuk told her the game was over and he wanted it. The girl protectively covered her chest and refused to hand them over. But then Jinhyuk leaned in and clarified he was talking about the Tutankhamun mask artifact. Yuri was livid, and honestly, it's hard to tell if she was angrier that he wanted the mask or that he didn't want what she was offering. Jinhyuk gave her an intimidating glare as she hesitated, then gave her a look. Either obey or become tiger food. She had no choice. It was better to survive now and get revenge later. The girl asked if he was really after the map of the eastern lands. Jinhyuk just grinned and warned her his tiger was on guard duty now. If anyone even thought about following him, they were dead meat. What none of them knew is that Jinhyuk wasn't like them at all. Just a few hours earlier, our hero was a complete shut-in, just like us. Watching this video, he poured every waking hour into his computer. The game he'd spent 11 years grinding to become #1 in was no joke. It was harder than Dark Souls, with nearly invincible bosses, enormous maps, and death traps at every corner. Pretty much every other player had rage quit. But this dedicated virgin, he never gave up. For 11 long years, he toughed it out to become the first and only player to ever beat the game. The instant he did, a notification broadcasted a shocking event in real time. The tower from the game's opening sequence had materialized in the real world. Right before their eyes, a system window appeared, informing them they were now awakened, and that if the tower wasn't cleared in 90 days, humanity would be wiped out. While everyone else was panicking, seeing only a crisis, Jinhyuk saw the opportunity of a lifetime. He bolted toward the very place everyone was fleeing from. But he wasn't alone. A handful of ex-Ginkweights Players recognized the game's tower and were also heading to the first event's location. Among them was a guy he knew, a former colleague from the same streaming company, who asked to team up. Jin Hyuk was done playing nice. He delivered a headbutt so brutal it knocked 2 teeth clean out of Lee Jong-soo's mouth. Jin Hyuk made it perfectly clear they were never friends. And they damn sure weren't allies now. The reality was, Jin Hyuk possessed the most knowledge about this game. He had absolutely nothing to gain by teaming up with a bunch of weaklings. As soon as the event began, a massive tree erupted from the center of the hall. The red fruits hanging from its branches were the loot everyone was drooling over. People swarmed the tree like they hadn't eaten in 10 days. A single bite gave a +3 stat bonus, after every last fruit had been snatched up. Jin Hyuk just stood there with a grin. It turns out the tree got seriously ticked off that people ate its fruit, because it suddenly started attacking everyone. As the crowd fled for their lives, Jin Hyuk remained calm. He mockingly asked Jung-soo if he was a coward, telling him any idiot would know the real prize only appears after the fruit is gone. The guy was skeptical, but he also knew Jin Hyuk had spent 11 years mastering this game. He knew everything, so he proposed they work together, but as they started running, the bastard froze and screamed, trying to use Jin Hyuk as bait. "That's what you get for trusting the guy who knocked your teeth out," he yelled. Jin Hyuk easily dodged the tree's attack. The branch whipped past him and went straight for Jung-soo, snatching him up in a position. Well, let's just say it's very familiar to fans of tentacle anime. Jung-soo screamed for help, but Jin Hyuk just smiled and thanked him for being the perfect bait. His real target was the mangrove's heart. Jin Hyuk knew exactly what he was doing. Unfortunately, that guy was so useless. He couldn't even distract the tree for more than a couple of seconds. Jin Hyuk grabbed a broken branch as a makeshift weapon, using his incredible physical abilities. He weaved through the attacks until he reached the prize. The very instant he grabbed the heart, the tree withered and died on the spot. It was perfect. Inside the heart was a gem, with an effect far more powerful than those fruits. Upon using it, he was granted 12 attribute points to distribute. Now that he's allocated those points, Jin Hyuk is the most overpowered level 1 player in the game. Since every level up gives 3 points, snagging 12 points is like having the stats of a level 4 player. Just an hour later, the news portals lit up, announcing that the first mangrove of greed had been conquered. A video of the incredible feat was set to drop in 10 minutes, and the internet was already losing its mind. Everyone was buzzing about it. But with very few exceptions, the comments were dripping with suspicion, with most people claiming he either got lucky or flat out cheated. The moment the video was finally uploaded, the skeptical comments exploded. As soon as viewers saw the protagonist's blurred-out face, they were convinced he'd hacked the game. The community was in total shock. The positive reactions were few and far between, but the offers were relentless. On his main account, sponsorship and partnership deals started flooding his inbox, even though he knew the mangrove was no joke for a level 1 player. He hadn't expected such a massive wave of disbelief. He supposed it was understandable, considering most players had never even glimpsed the game's final stages. Kang was floored to see collaboration offers for 1 billion won rolling in. His life up to this point had been a brutal struggle. Just scraping together enough money to survive was a constant battle. He was always late with the rent. He'd even gone hungry for days just to save money for his live streams. Back in the day, the protagonist used to stream himself eating. If these kinds of opportunities had appeared before, he would have accepted in a heartbeat. But now, he had zero intention of sharing his knowledge. Not for 1 billion, and not even for 10 billion won. The only things that mattered to him now were information and a total monopoly. This realization pointed him toward his next objective. The instant the game launched, mana began to seep from the tower and spread throughout Seoul. It wasn't a huge effect, but suddenly, the tower's artifacts were being treated like holy relics. The funny thing was, they were all fakes. The real legendary artifacts were still tucked away safely inside the tower. These were nothing more than replicas. He planned to hit the one place where he could hoard a ton of these copies. The National Museum of Korea had essentially become a massive treasure chest filled with countless fake items. He knew he wasn't the only one hunting for these replicas. While the tree had spawned in 7 different locations, there was only one museum. People from every region would be swarming the place, desperate for these sacred artifacts. Among them, he'd surely face players who were former rankers and even pro gamers. He entered the event area, noticing it was much quieter than he'd anticipated. Just as he figured, someone had gotten there first. And that person's body was now a fried, smoking corpse. Given how drastically the world had changed, he expected people to adapt quickly. However, reality rarely meets expectations, and some had managed to become absolute monsters in just a single day. The prize everyone was gunning for was an artifact held in the classical medieval era gallery. It was the Great Map of the Eastern Land, and it certainly wasn't a map of Korea. This particular map was buzzing with magical energy, containing precious information about the Tower of Trials that everyone was obsessed with. It pinpointed the locations of labyrinths and ruins and even detailed the monsters lurking inside each one. That's precisely why everyone was desperate to get their hands on this great map. Even though its intel only went up to the 10th floor, it was more than enough to spark a fire in people's hearts, making them desire this one item above all else. Because of this obsession, they would completely overlook the truly valuable artifacts hidden in plain sight. It was at that very moment our hero caught up to where Yuri and her group were. He dismantled the girl with ease and was now making his way to the next floor. Our protagonist had made all the necessary preparations and was now on a quest to obtain the single strongest ability in the tower. While descending from the second to the third floor, the old man discovered an artifact. He wondered to himself what could have happened to Yuri. He couldn't figure out how this mysterious man had reached this place. He also asked himself if the man had defeated Lee. Our protagonist immediately recognized the level 1 barrier blocking his path. The old man commented that he'd never seen a seal quite like this one before. Still, he knew that no physical or magical attack could put a scratch on it. Our hero began searching for the point where the monoflow diverged in Manhwa. In order to get through, he knew there was a way to break the barrier, but it came with a specific condition. He told the old man to continuously blast it with his flame magic to weaken it. Our protagonist told him, "You have to keep this up until I can get inside and come back out with every relic I can find." In that instant, the old man understood that he had to maintain his spell no matter what. While our hero waited to get inside, Kang reasoned that making an enemy out of a high-ranking magic user would be incredibly foolish. No matter how he sliced it, the elder concluded that his only option was to trust the young man. The old man firmly stated that he would put his faith in the boy. The boy replied, "Then I'll be counting on you, Gramps." Right after, the old man vowed to do his best and gathered fire magic into his hands. He unleashed a continuous barrage of spells against the barrier to wear it down while our protagonist waited for an opening. The second he saw the barrier flicker open, he prepared to dash through. Our hero wasn't fooled for a second. He knew that someone had already been here. Just like on the other floors, the iron sword with the name Chenlong etched onto its sheath had been stolen. He realized that whoever did this had already gotten what they came for and vanished. He was also positive that this was the person who had erected the barrier. The enemy's plan was clearly to get in, grab what they wanted, and get out. Kang observed that these people weren't looking for a fight. His opponent wasn't trying to risk a thing. The protagonist was sure that the thief had no idea they'd left behind a second-hand relic. He then snatched up the Yangyong Tongbo. This was a personal inherent ability and the final piece of the puzzle. It was the last component needed to create a much more powerful skill along with the materials he'd already collected. These materials included the Persian ceremonial mold and the other items he had previously acquired. Now, the three relics began to react with one another right before his eyes. At that moment, the system announced that, against all probability, he had successfully combined the artifacts. He had just acquired an SS-level relic known as the Eye of Truth. It was an incredibly difficult item to obtain and could not only see a person's status window but also determine if someone was telling a lie. The Eye of Truth was the most powerful of the 5 legendary eyes that exist in the world. Another reason that drew the protagonist to this place was the secret mission to fuse 3 replicas and craft an S-rank item. By fulfilling the requirements, Kang unlocked the inherent ability of fusion. This skill gave him the power to copy the abilities of others and merge them to create superior powers and dimensions. If the complexity of the copied skill was too high, it would be altered in the process. From outside, the old man yelled, "I can't hold this for much longer." He shouted to our hero, "Get back here if you're done." Kang Jin Hyuk considered copying him. He'd already figured out the old man's abilities and had a plan to copy the skill. He needed to force the man to show some genuine emotion from behind that stoic mask. In other words, all Kang had to do was really get on Min Jung-woo's nerves. When the elder told him to get a move on, Jin Hyuk coolly replied, "You can stop using your ability now." This caught the old man off guard, especially as Kang stated that there was no reason to keep it up anymore, completely shocked. The old man asked, "Then why did you ask me to use my powers?" Without missing a beat, our hero then used the word carpo to shatter the barrier. It was a simple trick. Really, the barrier could be broken with a single word in Latin, a fact our protagonist knew all too well. The old man, however, actually hadn't done a single thing to help him. Kang had muttered the word under his breath. There was no point in launching endless attacks if none of them could even scratch the barrier. It was a complete waste of mana. Now that he knew the elder's magic was depleted, his next move was to make him angry. He already knew every single detail about the tower. Because of this, a map that only contained information up to the 10th floor was completely useless to Kang. But that didn't mean he would just give away the information for free. While Min Jung-woo was still trying to figure out what was happening, our hero had already made his move. He explained that he had no use for the map and was, therefore, about to set it ablaze with his lighter. He torched the item because he couldn't risk other people getting their hands on the intel for the first 10 floors. The old man's jaw dropped as he watched the flames devour the ancient map. The only way for Kang to guarantee his advantage was to eliminate any possibility of other players learning about those 10 floors. The old man's patience finally snapped. Furious that he'd burned the map, he began threatening our protagonist, and that was the trigger. With the conditions finally met, Kang copied the old man's power, successfully snagging the B-level fire element ability. He stored this newly copied skill in his world's memories. Just like that, he could control fire, and his affinity for the element skyrocketed. The fire element was just the first of his many copies. Min Jung-woo growled, "You're going to regret this," and began channeling magic to attack Kang Jin Hyuk. As he did, Kang's own level 1 fire element activated. At the same time, he explained to the old man exactly why he torched the map. Then, he summoned his own flames, a perfect mirror of the elder's power, startling him. The old man was now positive that the skill was identical to his, except Kang's was somehow stronger. He realized this man was anything but normal. He didn't even need the map. The elder could only wonder. "Just who is he, Kang?" simply replied. "If you want to climb this tower peacefully, you'll listen to every word I say." It turned out 4 veterans had shown up at the museum, including Kang. The others were the old man, a girl, and some unknown person. Kang knew they were all trying to minimize the risks now that the world had become the Tower of Trials, but he wondered if they were plotting to get ahead of him. Because of that possibility, he needed to snatch up as many unique abilities as he could. He told the old man, "I'll contact you soon." He also ordered him and the girl downstairs to level up as quickly as possible. This way, he'd have a few pawns to move around the board. Even so, he had a long road ahead. He'd need to collect a whole arsenal of skills for this journey. Since he only had one body, it would be impossible to master every single ability. That was fine. He would just take all the best and most important ones for himself. Suddenly, his body hit a wall. He was starving and completely drained, so he decided to stop for food. He walked into a restaurant where a news report was playing on the television. 23 people had been eliminated and 50 were injured at the National Museum of Korea. Many were in critical condition, and the number of casualties was still rising. It wasn't just in Korea. Similar incidents were breaking out in the United States, Europe, and Japan. Just as he'd predicted, players across the globe were making similar moves to climb the tower. A reporter on the broadcast started to review the security footage from inside the museum. The cameras clearly showed the insane fight between Anubis and Kang Jin Hyuk's mountain tiger. No one could believe their eyes, but the images were unfortunately 100% real. The people in the restaurant were floored, unable to comprehend how a regular human could do something like that. Then, they noticed he was the same guy who defeated the swamp creature. His movements were a perfect match. Our hero realized he needed to be more careful about concealing his identity. He was getting recognized far too easily. The government launched an investigation into the unnamed structure, which they officially dubbed the Tower of Trials. To handle it, they formed the Awakened Association, made up of veterans with a wide range of abilities. The government's response informing this group was much quicker than our protagonist had anticipated, since they had already assembled a team, full of awakened individuals with natural-born abilities. He figured they would be more adaptable. Kang just hadn't expected them to get organized so fast. On the TV, a broadcast from the new Department of Awakened Individuals was playing. A man in a suit and tie named Kang Jin was introduced as the head of the newly formed Awakened Association. He was there to recruit members for the group, promising a salary of 60 million won and a government position for new recruits. This offer, however, specifically excluded the person who appeared in the videos. Sang then promised that if Kang joined the Awakened, the government would give him anything he could possibly want. People watching the broadcast muttered that even without knowing the guy, they were jealous. Our protagonist, however, immediately understood the report's real purpose was him. They were treating him like an asset to be acquired. But no matter what they offered, he had no intention of joining them. In this world, the value of a single well-trained individual was greater than 100 ordinary people. Han Sung-jin knew this, which is why he was essentially offering Kang a blank check to get him on their side. Sang Jin was likely chosen as president because he possessed the necessary skills for the position, or perhaps it was because he had more experience inside the Tower of Trials. Our protagonist hoped Sang Jin had a good ability, as it would be an interesting one to copy. Looking at the clock, he saw it was 7 p.m. Once the hand hit 9, the Tower of Trials would officially open. Right on schedule. The time arrived. All the new players flocked toward the tower, completely captivated by the magical scenery. It was just like the Tower of Trials from the game they all used to play. Our hero, however, just saw a bunch of newbies getting amazed by something so basic. As a welcome gift for entering the tower, everyone received 100 coins. This currency could only be used exclusively inside the tower. Players could also upload videos to show off their achievements, earning an additional 100 coins for every 10,000 views. However, there would be a premium charge based on the player's status. Every player inside the tower who watched these videos would have their first 10,000 views counted. Therefore, they had to be careful when choosing which videos to spend their views on. The live stream function, for example, would only become available once they encountered the boss of the next level. Furthermore, if the system has a zero-tolerance policy for cheaters, anyone caught manipulating view counts or using other exploits will face severe consequences. It's all connected. Between the climbers in the tower and the audience watching from the outside, spectators can bet on players they believe have the best shot at reaching the summit, which in turn boosts their view counts across all tower functions. This system is fascinating because the more buzz a player generates, the more coin they pocket. Meanwhile, climbers are swarming the Goblin Cave, scrambling for prime positions to farm coins. They're all in a mad rush, trying to clear it as fast as possible to get a leg up on the competition. Raking in coins here would be a breeze for Kang Jin Hyuk, since he knows this area like the back of his hand. However, he has no plans on uploading videos anytime soon, and he certainly doesn't intend to rely on them for income. After all, giving away the knowledge he holds would be a huge misstep and a terrible strategy. Back in his previous life, he hit a massive wall while clearing the lower 30 floors of the tower. And for a while, he was completely stuck. Moving on to the next stage forced him to hunt for secret fragments hidden on the lower floors, which meant he had to retrace every single one of his steps. In the end, he finally discovered the solution inside some long-forgotten ruins. It was there he learned that his character build had been fundamentally flawed from the very beginning. The realization that the character he'd spent years building was utter trash was a painful pill to swallow. Because of this, he seriously considered deleting his character after investing so much of his life into it, only to end up with such a pathetic outcome. 6 years have passed since that time. Now, our protagonist stands before a B-rank labyrinth. This is the very maze built by Daedalus in Crete, famous for its maddeningly confusing paths and lethal traps. The secret to breaking past the 30th floor is forging a solid foundation, and the key to that is buried deep within this very labyrinth. He never imagined he'd have to slog through this place again, which irritates him to no end. Despite his annoyance, a wave of nostalgia washes over him the moment he pushes open the labyrinth's massive doors. The inside reveals a breathtaking hall filled with priceless and ancient treasures. There are also glowing blue moths fluttering about, and one of them gently lands on his hand. Abruptly, he's confronted by a group of strangers and demands Who are you? A friendly-looking woman replies. We were just looking for a spot to grind and happened to find this place. She explains that the labyrinth will be closing soon. This group had been tailing him for 10 minutes before he came in. After they noticed something unusual about him, they saw him head straight for the labyrinth right after entering the tower and open it without a key. The friendly girl then suggested that they should all go in and follow him, but the others were hesitant, unsure if entering the labyrinth was worth the potential danger. The girl then turns to him and asks, "Why don't we team up to clear the labyrinth and split the loot?" Kang sees right through her, attempt to manipulate him with the promise of safety in numbers. He correctly guesses she's the leader, so he activates his Eye of Truth to see if she's telling the truth. At that very moment, she introduces herself. My name is Park Hannah. I'm 22 years old, and I've only ever reached the second floor of the Tower of Trials. Before this, he saw that her name and age were correct, and he also confirmed she was only level 1. He then noticed the girl's skill was quite interesting, communion. With it, she could effortlessly befriend anyone, even complete strangers. This ability could completely dissolve any feelings of distrust. He notes the condition to copy this skill he has to cooperate with her for 240 hours straight, and they must be totally alone when that time is up. Our protagonist immediately recognizes that the communion skill will be vital for handling a particular villain he'll face in the future. Jang Cholik speaks up next, saying he quit the game after messing around on the first floor. 2 other girls then introduced themselves, mentioning they'd reached the first and third floors. 2 other guys admit that this is their very first time playing the Tower of Trials. Our hero puts on a friendly face and introduces himself as Kang Jin Hyuk. He already knows this group plans to leech off him later, so he doesn't even bother trying to memorize their names. The friendly girl asks if he's played the Tower of Trials before, and then asks what floor he managed to reach. As she talks, she wraps her hand around his arm, activating her communion skill. A synthetic feeling of affection tries to take hold. However, it doesn't have any effect on him. He realizes this is her whole gimmick. If he hadn't known it was a skill, he might have actually been swayed by her charms. He replies coolly, I got as far as I could the last time I played. Park Hannah is stunned. Her communion skill didn't seem to work on him at all. She asks him to describe the monsters inside the labyrinth and their specific weaknesses. Our hero then drops a bombshell. This entire labyrinth rearranges itself at set time intervals. This revelation sends everyone into a panic. They start to scream in absolute terror. The girl cries out, But this is supposed to be a first-floor labyrinth. Suddenly, a trap springs to life. Huge stone blocks begin to grind along the walls, moving to crush the group. One block hurtles dangerously close to Park Hannah, and she dives out of the way at the last possible second. Another person in the group yells at a novice, You'll be flattened if you just stand there. Eventually, everyone scrambles to safety as the stones grind to a halt. The whole group is in shock. They clearly thought this would be a simple ruin with nothing more to it. Kang Jin asks, Have you guys seriously never seen a shifting labyrinth before? Hannah realizes that this place is far too dangerous for level 1 players. They have to get out immediately. She asks her friend if she can find the exit with her skill, but the girl replies that her ability was nullified the moment the labyrinth started to move. This means they can't find the way out. They are completely trapped. Jin Hyuk had been wondering why they seemed so confident entering the maze. They were banking on a navigation skill. These newbies must have thought this labyrinth would be a total cakewalk. He decides to just ignore these morons for now. Besides, something far more dangerous is about to appear. Park shouts, Kang, why didn't you tell us about the labyrinth's shifting walls? She's furious that they got injured trying to dodge the attacks. They all start blaming him for the trap and start demanding to know what he's hiding. Kang lets out a slow breath before asking, Correct me if I'm wrong, but did I ask you to tail me? With a chilling edge to his voice, he continues, You came here on your own. I didn't force a single one of you. That sets off one of the goons, who completely loses it. He summons a blade, ready to attack our protagonist. He screams at Kang, I couldn't stand the sight of you from the second I saw you. Before the kid can even finish his sentence, he is sent flying by a single, devastatingly powerful strike. The other members of the group start to cry out in pure desperation. At that exact moment, a creature emerges from the darkness of the Cretan labyrinth. It is The Minotaur itself comes charging, its axe flying from the wall right back into its grip as the beast lets out a furious roar. Park Hana is sure they're all about to be wiped out, but Kang Jin just yells, "Move!" before charging straight at the monster himself. The rest of the group can only watch, stunned, as he runs directly into the Minotaur's onslaught. As the creature brings its massive axe crashing down, our hero sidesteps the blow. He leaps into the air, matching the monster's height, but not before its axe nicks his shoulder. That single cut, however, unlocks a secret evasion ability. This new stat shrinks the power difference against stronger enemies while magnifying it against weaker ones. This no-gap stat basically cuts down the level disparity by 3 attribute points for every tough fight. Wasting no time, he takes advantage of his new power. He vaults off the Minotaur's horn to propel himself away, landing gracefully. He knows this is the key to getting stronger. Even at level 1, this is the ultimate grinding method, one he perfected after countless failed attempts against this very beast. The creature, its eyes glowing red with rage, lunges at him, but our protagonist has faced this exact attack tens of thousands of times in his past life. So, he dodges it with ease, and his gap attribute ticks up by 0.5. His body remembers every single move, letting him stretch that power gap even wider. With every incoming blow he sidesteps, his gap stat just keeps climbing. After all, he's a seasoned pro. He can even flip right over the monster's axe swing. It doesn't matter how powerful an attack is. If it can't connect, the rookies are just frozen in awe. Realizing they were actually planning to jump this guy, they would have been slaughtered. Hannah can't believe their plan was to take him and the monster out just to loot their gear. One look at the Minotaur makes her realize just how insane that idea was. Our hero taunts, "This thing is too slow. It'll never hit me like this." That, of course, just infuriates the beast, which roars and swings its gigantic axe again. Kang Jin Hyuk knows the secret to rapid growth is simple. You have to put your life on the line. Just like that moment the axe almost took his head off. Right at the neck. The closer he comes to death, the bigger the payout, because he just dodged a lethal blow. His gap attribute jumps by a full point. A whole attribute point for a couple of scratches is not a bad deal at all. Still, one wrong move could be his last. That's when he spots the group of newbies trying to make a run for it. Park Hana is frantically searching the walls for an escape route, when suddenly, our protagonist appears right behind her, asking, "Going somewhere?" She jumps, startled, and he tells the group they should all be doing the same if they want to raise their attributes. He states that if they dodge these attacks, they'll also get secret stats. Then, dripping with sarcasm, he adds, "See, I'm sharing the wealth." Meanwhile, the Minotaur charges them again, hell-bent on turning them all into paste. Hannah starts sobbing in terror as the axe hurtles past and smashes into the wall. Our protagonist asks coldly, "Why were you just standing there? You should have ducked or backed away. That just cost one of them their life." Our hero stands, stum, perfectly still, facing the Minotaur without a shred of fear. Suddenly, he sees the labyrinth walls begin to shift, and he takes off, shouting a farewell to the Minotaur, who is now trapped by the maze's shifting walls. The Minotaur goes berserk. Realizing it's been tricked by Kang Jin Hyuk's strategy, it immediately charges at the labyrinth wall, slamming its axe into it relentlessly. The survivors are in total shock, still reeling from their near-death experience. They ask if it's over and if that thing is going to come back for them. Our protagonist explains that the Minotaur is tracking the residue from the luminescent moths he touched earlier, therefore, it's going to keep hunting them down. Hannah snaps. "Why are you doing something so insane?" he replies. "I'm doing this to raise my attributes. If you want, you can rest while the labyrinth changes. Then, we'll play a bit more with our horned friend until it breaks through." "Everything to get here?" Park Hana asks. "How long do we need to run and dodge this enraged monster's attacks?" Our hero replies, "You need to do this until you escape the labyrinth, which will be about a month from now." The rookies are horrified, realizing they're stuck in this hell for another 30 days. If they split from him, the monster won't attack them, but they also won't gain any experience. Kang Jin then asks, "So, which path are you planning to take after? D. All. It'll be dangerous to wander blindly through this maze." The noobs ask if he knows where the exit is. He replies, "I know this labyrinth very well." Hannah understands this means they'll never escape alone without his help. Park Hannah sighs. "I have no choice," and decides to follow our hero to find the exit. However, Kang states, "Nothing in this world is free. You will pay a price." He points his sword at the girl and tells Seoul, her, "Give me all your coins." Meanwhile, other newbies are facing goblins in the game. One of them is a streamer and one of the so-called veterans of the Tower of Trials. He's been playing solo for 15 hours, getting showered with praise and popularity online. The man with the red headband realizes this is working for him. All the forums are buzzing about Munan because of his brutal fights against the goblins. He thanks his team for their hard work as Si Kimbayo, even though everyone thinks he did it all by himself. The video was cleverly edited so nobody would realize he was being buffed. A nasty comment appears, stating that, someone else cleared his dungeon in just 5 hours. Mayon says, haters are common, and he isn't shaken by it. However, a new video soon hits the Hall of Fame, causing their video's ranking to plummet. This person, now in the Hall of Fame, is the first in the world to successfully upgrade an item to Plus 10. Juan finds this impossible, as our hero's video skyrockets in the rankings. 10 minutes ago, he told the group, "Don't just stand there, do what you need to." They need to collect moss to make a bed and find wood to start a bonfire. The newbies reluctantly obey while our protagonist opens the marketplace. First, he wants to protect his coins. For this, he buys 3 enchanted tarot cards. He also buys a worn-out bronze key, pieces of a wagon, and 10 refinement scrolls. These are all terrible items that nobody else would buy. Yet he completes the purchase, because the most important thing is how these items are used. Kang Jin decides to combine the 3 cards. The combination is a success, and he creates the Wheel of Fortune, named after the Roman goddess of luck. It's an S-level item that jacks up his luck for a whole 10 minutes. After activating it, he confirms that luck has a limited effective range, something an average person would never even notice. But since he remembers everything from his past life, he knows exactly what those limits are. By using the Wheel of Fortune, his luck stat is now maxed out. He's well aware that the success rate for refining scrolls is notoriously awful, probably one of the worst in the game. But with luck pushed to the absolute limit, that failure rate turns into a 100% guarantee. He decides to pour everything into his dagger, and the refinement is a massive success. He manages to get his old dagger all the way to plus 10, the highest possible level. On top of that, he snags the bonus achievement for being the first person on the Korean server to craft a plus 10 item. His name is plastered all over the Hall of Fame for the entire day, and he nets a cool 5,000 coins. Finally, he has a weapon truly worth wielding, his new purple dagger. It's now the 10th day in the labyrinth, and the group has managed to build a bonfire with some scavenged wood and make a bed out of moss. Their menu consists of nothing but mushrooms and more moss. Our protagonist is sleeping soundly on his moss bed right next to the fire. The rest of the group, however, is far from peaceful. The Minotaur has been relentlessly hunting them ever since they arrived. The labyrinth is constantly shifting its layout, turning every corner into a potential death trap. They're all fed up with our hero because he acts like none of this is a big deal. If they keep this up, they know they won't last much longer, and they're convinced Kang is just going to ditch them. Anonymous viewers on a stream are asking, why don't they just give up and hunker down? The streamers claim the guy with them is a veteran player and a complete psychopath. During this secret live stream, Park asks, can anyone dig up more information on him? An anonymous user responds. I can't find any of his old videos. It seems like his past internet content has been completely scrubbed. A search for Kang Jin Hyuk doesn't show him creating a new channel, either. They figure he isn't trying to get subscribers. He just gets a thrill from playing alone in the most insane way possible. They wish they knew his strategies and where the divine relics were hidden. Park can't believe they're actually trying to get advice from the clueless mob. Watching from outside the tower, he snaps at them to shut up, then asks, what's the Raven Guild's official word on this mess? An anonymous viewer reports that the guild is looking into it, but they have zero information about the labyrinth. It's going to take them at least 3 more weeks to reach the party. This news crushes Hannah's hopes. The realization that she's stuck in this maze for 3 more weeks hits her hard, and she tells her friend there's no official guide for a situation like this. That's when Hannah unveils her plan. They'll eliminate Kang, seize the stone chamber they discovered, and wait there for AA to arrive. It's their only way out of this area. The only hiccup, of course, is actually getting rid of him. Just then, her friend scoops up a rock, saying this is the perfect time since Jin is fast asleep. They agree to do it now, knowing that anyone whose head is smashed by a rock is instantly eliminated. But just as he's about to act, Hannah grabs his hand, reminding him that Jin's reaction speed is absolutely insane. There's no way they could beat him in a straight-up fight. He'd probably wake up the second they moved and immediately launch a counterattack. Her friend drops the stone, asking, so what are we supposed to do? We can't keep suffering like this. Hannah assures him they won't have to suffer much longer. A member of the Raven Guild had given her a special tool for this kind of situation. It's a lethal poison, so potent that a single drop could melt 100 trolls. It's the stinger from a giant zucchini wasp. They have to make sure he's sent to hell for good so they can finally be safe. Our protagonist wakes up, disappointed to see yet another meal of moss and mushrooms, feeling like he's on a cheap survival show. Park Hannah snidely tells him that if he wants something better, he can go hunt rats. Jin asks her to pass the water jug behind her and then asks for another helping of mushrooms. The two of them can't believe Jin is actually going to eat more of that disgusting slop, but they put it on his plate anyway. As he gets ready to eat, Hannah can hardly believe they're actually serving him. Our hero starts chowing down, and the online chat goes absolutely nuts. The duo celebrates, convinced their poison plot was a success. Suddenly, a plate is knocked over and someone starts spitting out the poisoned food. But the person isn't Jin, it's Hannah's friend. In a matter of seconds, he collapses, writhing on the ground in agony from the powerful toxin. Jin Hyuk calmly says, you were a fool to think I would eat something you two poisoned. When I asked for more mushrooms, I switched our plates while your backs were turned, and you should know. Running secret. Broadcast is considered cheating. The girl shoots back. You don't have any proof of that. The chat viewers suddenly realize Jin has found out about the live stream. This broadcast feature is only supposed to be used when fighting the boss that guards the path to the next floor. A system warning pops up, stating that if no improper conduct is detected, the player who filed the report will be penalized. Despite the risk, our protagonist proceeds with the report. Her panicked expression was a dead giveaway about the secret stream. He can't believe she'd stoop so low and says, Park Hannah, I'm truly disappointed in you. As Jin confirms the report, the girl starts getting a system warning that makes her panic. The capture was successful, and her anonymity was about to be revoked. In that instant, the live broadcast became public, and the chat viewers were forcibly removed from the stream. The viewer count dropped to 0. They were all slapped with a 1-month ban from watching videos. If this happens a second time, they'll be permanently banned. The girl watches in horror as everyone in her chat vanishes. As for her own penalty, it's a grim fate indeed. At that exact moment, the Minotaur appears, dragging its enormous axe. It lets out a thunderous roar and then charges forward like an enraged bull. Hannah frantically asks if our hero will fight this time, begging him to tell her which way to run. Jin just looks at her and says, You've got some nerve. You literally just tried to poison me, and now you're asking for my help? The girl keeps pleading, but he isn't having any of it. Finally, our protagonist fulfills the requirement of spending 240 hours with her, allowing him to steal her technique. After being stuck with her for so long, he successfully copies her communion skill. Looking her over, he declares that he has no more use for her. The girl screams back, You're going to regret this. It turns out Ea is a ranking member of the Raven Guild. The Minotaur swings its axe in a massive arc, trying to obliterate the girl. Both Kang and the girl manage to leap out of the way just in time. Kang wants her to watch closely, to understand that he's the one she should truly fear. Then, he dashes toward the Minotaur with his newly enhanced technique. He lands a shallow cut on the beast before kicking off a wall to launch another attack. Ground. Kang admits the hit was a scratch, but it was all part of the plan to shrink the level gap. He knows there's no way he can beat this beast in a straight fight. That's why he needs to drag the Minotaur down to his level. With that, our hero charges in, ducks under a Seoul massive swing, and unleashes Fire Element Level 1. He blasts a huge wave of flames at the Minotaur. The creature just bats the inferno aside and starts thundering towards our hero. But suddenly, the colossal labyrinth guardian falters. It crashes to its knees, completely, frozen in place. See, if a monster's muscles get overtaxed, the meat gets tough. Our hero says he's on the verge of winning, but he knows the beast is about to play its trump card. All at once, the Minotaur, guardian of the labyrinth, activates Berserk State Level 10. It lets out a roar that shakes the very earth. The Seoul Minotaur struggles to its feet, bellows again, and visibly bulks up with raw power. This sight terrifies Hannah, who wonders how they could possibly defeat it now. A sinister green energy glows from its horns as smoke pours from its nostrils. Its attack power and speed are jacked up by 30% for 5 minutes. And there's another perk, a massive intelligence boost, which now lets the Minotaur speak. "I will annihilate you," it declares, "and scatter your remains all over this labyrinth. That way, no one will ever trespass in my domain again." Kang Jin can feel the monster's magic flowing more efficiently than ever before. All thanks to its new brain, he just grins and tells the Minotaur to bring it on. The beast roars back. "I will crush you!" It lunges forward, bringing its enormous axe down. Our hero parries the blow with nothing but his dagger. Then, with a shocking display of force, he sends the Minotaur's axe flying and continues to fend off its furious, relentless assault. The battle is a blur of motion. Hannah can hardly follow it with her eyes. She then notices that Kang isn't even bothering to dodge anymore. He's taking every single attack head-on, even though the Minotaur is a boss with a Sai Level 10 buff raging. They're somehow fighting on equal ground. Hannah is floored. She knows for a fact the entire Raven Guild couldn't handle this thing. Yet, Kang is a total madman. He's taking every blow with a massive grin on his face. It's as if he planned for all of this and knew exactly what he was doing. Kang reflects on his past. No matter what he did, he hated the boring, predictable reality of his old life. It felt like nothing ever changed. Not in the real world and not in games. The challenge was always the same, but this new world, it feeds his deepest cravings, his level 57 gap. Ability is the perfect example. It's what's made him so absurdly powerful. On top of his summons and his dagger, his gap attribute just keeps on climbing, especially when he throws himself into deadly situations like this one. The Minotaur goes on a destructive rampage, smashing the labyrinth walls in its fury. Suddenly, our veteran Kang leaps toward it with his dagger, landing a flurry of lightning-fast cuts. The Minotaur just growls. "Pathetic tricks. They won't work on me." It sneers. "You are just a maggot. You can't even scratch me." But the moment those words leave its mouth, the creature freezes solid, stopping dead in its tracks right in front of our hero. It's completely paralyzed. The 5-minute duration of its level 10 berserk mode just expired. Our hero had been counting down, knowing the monster would be left totally defenseless afterward. The berserk state pushes a user's stats beyond their limits for a few minutes, but the backlash leaves them utterly helpless. The guardian of the labyrinth is now in a state of suspended animation, trapped right in front of Kang Jin. With 57 gap points, Kang can bridge a power difference equivalent to 19 levels. He still needs 20 more days to hit his ultimate goal of 100 points. Kang knows the Minotaur is only frozen because its rage mode wore off. It'll be back to the hunt the moment the labyrinth resets for the new day. Our protagonist just smirks, saying that he's still got 20 days left. He remembers telling her it would take a month to clear the labyrinth. 20 days later, the Minotaur returns, attacking with its full might in another fit of rage. A strike comes from the right, and his gap attribute ticks up. Next, he anticipates a swing from below and dodges. At long last, his gap attribute hits level 100. The labyrinth monster screams, absolutely enraged. It feels like the monster is moving in slow motion as he lands a solid punch to its jaw. Shaking his head, he steps onto the horn of the Minotaur, which has now collapsed onto the ground. This is his final farewell to the beast. Now, all that's left is to deal with Park Hannah. He turns to her and says, "I'm hiring an intern for the Veteran Players Company." He asks as if she's interested, noticing her complete lack of enthusiasm. "Not interested. You don't look very excited." Forcing a smile, the girl says, "I want to be hired. I'll work for your company." But before she can go on, he asks, "So what can you do for the company, starting now?" She offers that her communion skill will be incredibly useful for managing the company. However, our protagonist shuts her down. Saying he's already got that skill, she pivots, declaring, "I will never betray you." But that doesn't satisfy our veteran hero at all. In fact, he looks disappointed. He then announces he's making his decision on the intern position. When the girl begs for more time to think, he tells her, "I've already given you more than enough time." In a panic, she screams, "I can give you Bram's ring." Kang tells her he was already negotiating with the Chinese to get that exact ring. Hearing that the Raven Guild actually has it piques Kang Jin Hyuk's interest. After all, Bram's ring is one of the best items you can find on the first floor. It boosts your movement speed and grants magic resistance, even suppressing a monster's spells. The item has 3 incredible options, and he uses his Eye of Truth to confirm her story. Seeing she's not lying and isn't scheming anything major, he congratulates her on being hired as an intern for the Veteran Players Company. He makes it clear that he doesn't pay interns, and no matter where they are, they have to come to him the second he calls. He doesn't care if it's 3 a.m. Finally, he just needs to sort out the contract's duration. At that moment, our protagonist taps into the memories of the world and plans to combine his skills of fire and communion. After successfully merging the 2 skills, Kang smirks and says, "It's about to get hot in here." Activating the A-rank Soul Mark skill, the girl realizes this is a magical contract. With a sinister smile, he says, "I wouldn't put your thumbprint just a piece of paper." With a twisted congratulations on her new internship, he slams the soul mark right onto Park Hannah's face. As she lets out a piercing scream, the cursed brand begins to glow. This mark on his target turns her into a puppet, completely obedient to the commands of its master. She's now physically incapable of any action that might harm the user. And if she even thinks of disobeying, she'll feel the searing pain of being burned alive. Just then, a brilliant light fills the area. They've done it. They're the first ones to ever conquer the labyrinth's first floor. The girl is overcome with relief. Finally free from that nightmarish dungeon, their victory is cemented in the Hall of Fame, and each player gets a prize of 5,000 coins. But just as she starts to celebrate her hard-earned reward, our protagonist gives her a cold command. "Send me those coins." Compelled by the mark, she immediately transfers her entire reward. With that, Kang is confident that his wallet is fatter than anyone else's. He then tells her to bring him the ring he wants within 3 days. When she starts to protest that it's not enough time, he cruelly cuts the deadline down to 2 days. The soul mark on her cheek begins to burn, forcing her to agree. Meanwhile, on the news, a report highlights Dangon, Korea's top guild, which has already reached the 3rd floor. They are hailed as the #1 guild in the entire nation. While other countries are struggling, all eyes are on Korea to lead the way. China, however, is playing its cards close to the chest, keeping their progress under wraps. The newscaster argues that Korea shouldn't depend on anyone else and should focus on overpowering the competition with its own might. The guild leader boasts that he can probably take down the 3rd floor Seoul boss all by himself. Hearing this on the news, our protagonist just scoffs, thinking about how foolish these people will look later. He gets their desire to be the first ones to the top, but he sees no reason to be so reckless. After all, he knows there's a 90-day time limit for every floor. Simply put, there's no point in sprinting to the 2nd floor, let alone the 3rd. What's more, if you charge ahead with a weak foundation, the difficulty spikes exponentially. The second you hit a roadblock, the pressure becomes absolutely crushing. This is a fatal mistake because humanity is on the brink of extinction, and there are no second chances. So, he decides to spend the next month gathering intel. In a world overflowing with misinformation, He needs trustworthy sources to get high-quality information. Luckily, he has a go-to source he's relied on for ages. He logs onto a specific website and reaches out to Big-Headed Bro, whose real name is Lee Taman, and another player called Punchy Hothead, who is actually Yun Hwa. Kang can't help but notice their personalities are a far cry from what he remembers from the game. These two are old-school players who ran with him in the Tower of Tests 2 years back. This is the very first time they're actually meeting face-to-face. He activates his Eyes of Baiul, truth skill to scan their stats. Lee is level 11 and possesses the innate skill, King of Machines. Just as Kang suspected, Lee managed to get the same ability again in this new reality. It's an ability perfect for massive battles, but it absolutely drains your mana. Yun is level 12, and her innate skill is Taekwondo Devote, which lets her dish out some serious damage. Seeing their levels are so close, Kang figures they must be partying up and hunting together. That adds up, since they were basically inseparable in the past. Now, for Kang to copy their unique skills, the three of them need to reach the 20th floor as a team. Kang introduces himself, sheepishly admitting his old in-game handle was basically the sound of someone passing gas. He's mortified that he picked such a dumb name 11 years ago. He adds that he's 26 years old and used to be a streamer, and it turns out Lee was one of his viewers. Lee quickly tells Kang to drop the stiff formalities, reminding him they've partied up countless times in the game. He says they'd all be more comfortable if they just spoke casually. Kang already knows they're good people. In his past life, he was surrounded by users and backstabbers. Maybe dealing with all those snakes is what made him so jaded. But even though this is their first time meeting in the flesh, he feels completely at ease with both Lee and Yun. As they chat, he gets caught up on everything that went down while he was stuck in that labyrinth. He learns all about the top guild's movements across the globe and finds out what the other big-name streamers have been up to. More disturbingly, he hears about demonic cults that are kidnapping people to steal their coins. That's when Lee puts two and two together, realizing that if Kang spent a whole month in the labyrinth, he must have missed the placement test. Kang has no idea what he's talking about. Lee explains that when the tower first appeared, a huge number of Baoyi people rushed in, and the body count on the second floor was catastrophic. Because of the insane death toll, the Awakened Association stepped in and restricted access to the tower, allowing only those who could pass a special qualification test to proceed. Once you pass, you get an ID code, just like the barcode on Yun Ha's wrist. It turns out Han Sang-jin, the CEO of the Awakened Association, used the excuse of reducing casualties to hoard all the players with powerful innate abilities for himself. Now that he knows the score, Kang decides he'll check out this association system for himself and figure out how to exploit it. When he arrives at the Awakened Association Tower, Kang heads right inside. Apparently, players who get an F rank or below are automatically banned from even attempting the second floor. But if you score a high rank, you'll be flooded with offers from the country's most elite guilds. This means there are pretty much three kinds of people you'll find at the testing center. First, you have the ones who just want to pass so they can keep climbing the tower. Then you have the vultures reporters and scouts looking to get a scoop on the next big talent. And finally, you have the show-offs, the ones who are here to flaunt their high ranks for everyone to see. Speaking of which, there's Park Hannah from the Raven Guild, the same girl who barely escaped the labyrinth with Park Hajin at her side. Trailing them is Kim Gatai from the Fighting Dads Guild. The moment they appear, cameras start flashing like crazy. Kang is instantly annoyed by the massive crowd in this place, muttering that it feels more like a pigsty. Park Hajin remarks, "Looks like a lot of people are dreaming of a payday." Kim Gatai just sneers and barks, "Clear a path." Gatai then warns Park Hajin, telling him he'd better put on a good show, since he only bothered coming because of Hajin's brothers. At that, the two brothers quickly promise they'll deliver a stellar performance and won't let him down. Their goons immediately start shoving people aside, yelling, "Move it or you'll get hurt." But one of the bodyguards gets in the face of someone who isn't moving. That person is Kang Jin Hyuk, who calmly asks, "What's the big idea? I got my number, and I'm just waiting my turn." Park Hajin shoves his own guard out of the way to get right in our protagonist's face. He snarls that he doesn't know who Kang is, but he's making a huge mistake and needs to get lost now. The whole crowd goes silent, stunned to see some random guy standing up to the famous Park Hajin. Kang Jin Hyuk instantly recognizes him. This must be the guy Hannah was gushing about. Without a second thought, he activates his eyes of truth, pulling up all the data on this pathetic level 8 player. Park Hajin suddenly becomes unsettled by Kang Jin Hyuk's unwavering stare. It's then that Kang figures out the conditions for copying abilities. If he wants to duplicate an innate skill, he has to raise his friendship level with the person. However, if he creates hostility, he can freely copy any of their common skills. Realizing he can manipulate hostility to his advantage, our protagonist gets a dangerous glint in his eye. Park Hajin keeps threatening Jin Hyuk, ordering him to get out of his way as Hannah watches in disbelief. Kang flashes a wicked grin towards Hannah, which makes her break out in a cold sweat. In the next moment, our hero grabs Hannah's brother's hand and seizes 2 of his fingers, then viciously snaps them. The brother screams out in agony. This sends him into a rage, and he prepares to lunge at our hero. All the reporters at the scene scramble backward to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Our protagonist glances at them, then grabs his water bottle and hurls it straight at Park Hajin. Park slices the bottle clean in 2, but as he lunges forward, he's suddenly knocked off his feet and slams into the ground. Nobody saw what just happened. They all assume he just tripped over his own feet, but Hannah knows Jin Hyuk better. She understands it was a deliberate attack from him. Just then, Kim Guy from the fighting Dad's Guild shows up to break up the fight. Our hero instantly activates his eyes of truth, but the ability fizzles out because of a massive level gap. That can only mean Kim is at least level 20, maybe even higher. Kim I declares that the young man is a troublemaker, but he has no choice but to work with him since he's useful in a certain way. Jin Hyuk asks if it's because he's the one supplying the Goryo ginseng. The man's eyes widen, asking, "How could you possibly know that?" Looking visibly stunned, our hero dismisses the question, saying the how isn't important and they should focus on more practical matters. For instance, how to manage the side effects of the Goryo ginseng. Kim Guy immediately throws up a black screen, a barrier ability, around them both. Kang's friends rush forward to get to him, but they don't reach him in time. Kim needs to confirm how genuine Kang's information is, especially his demand for exclusive rights to 10 dungeons. Goryo ginseng is famous as an amazing consumable that can restore both health and magic. The catch is, consuming it raw triggers a poisoning effect. Kang is confident they're struggling with this side effect and declares that they need 3 specific ingredients to fix it. Those items are Karashian bile, a moonstone, and a mandrake root. He might not know about the other items, but he's positive they're having a hard time finding that mandrake root. Kang then offers to reveal the locations of these items in exchange for Kim's trust. Kim is taken aback. Kang's information perfectly matches the reports from his own explorers. This only deepens the mystery of who this man standing before him really is. He chooses to trust Jin Hyuk, but points a dagger right at him as a warning. Don't even think about pulling any tricks. I'll see right through them and ignore everyone. Still, demanding 10 of the guild's most prized, monopolized dungeons is a steep price. Because of this, he decides to put a condition on their deal. But our protagonist scoffs, telling Kim he's missing the point as his eyes begin to glow. After all, he's the one making the offer and presenting the opportunity, not Kim Guy. Abruptly, a woman shatters the barrier and sends a man flying. The girl shouts a warning to everyone. Back off if you don't want to get wiped out. Thanks to her interference, the black screen barrier is now collapsing. Our hero tells Manhwa to take it easy as he steps away from Kim, full of concern. His friends ask if he was being threatened and demand to know what just went down. They can't believe the situation was resolved so peacefully, outraged. Park Hajin storms up to the man. "Are you really just going to let them walk away unscathed?" he begs, pleading for another shot to use his power and turn the tables. Kim grabs the boy by the throat and warns him. "This man is not weak. You are no match for him," Kim adds. "You'll live to regret it if you act so carelessly again." The boy nearly passes out before the man finally lets him go. He's left wondering what in the world happened inside that barrier to make Kim humiliate him like that. Seething with rage, he plots to take the man out. Meanwhile, our protagonist meets the requirements to copy Park's DLE light breath skill. This ability gives him passive control over his mobility by regulating his breathing and heart rate. The skill is stored in the world's memories after our protagonist successfully provoked Hajin. He knows it's finally time to take the evaluation and find out his real rank. He recalls that his intern snagged the #1 spot in the rankings after eating some wild ginseng and wonders about his own potential. The test is straightforward. All he has to do is strike the magic crystal in front of him with either an item or a skill. What truly matters is the amount of potential that hits the crystal, as that's what will measure his true power. The administrator asks if he plans to fight without using any innate skills. Kang confirms. This dagger is all I need. The man tells him he can begin whenever he's good and ready. At the same time, Jin approaches a different crystal. The staff warns him that it's a medium-level crystal and suggests he try a lower-level one. Instead, they tell him it's impossible for a medium-level crystal to react to a normal strike. But the veteran player couldn't care less. He cranks his gap attribute to its absolute limit. A tremendous energy starts surging through his entire body. He's eager to see just how much stronger he's become since escaping the labyrinth. He unleashes a powerful strike with his dagger, pouring every last bit of his strength into the attack on the crystal. The man overseeing the test is left completely speechless. Most people lack the power to even leave a scratch on it. He has never witnessed anyone strong enough to split the crystal clean in half. Kang Jin Hyuk is instantly given a rank as an S-level magic power player. Still in shock, the man decides he has to report this event to his superiors immediately. However, our hero asks him to hold off on that report for 1 week. He has personal reasons for wanting this information kept under wraps for just a little longer. Kang shares a piece of wisdom he's learned in life sometimes. A good threat is more effective than the law. He then changes the subject, asking how Hannah managed to get there without anyone noticing. She hands him the item he had asked for. Our hero takes Bram's ring, an A-level item that bestows the supreme magical power of monsters upon its wearer. He activates the mark and says, "Diko, 2 days I gave you were more than enough." He continues, "I'll only consider removing this soul mark if you are on your absolute best behavior." His friends ask if he ended up with an F rank. They were positive he would have ranked higher than them. He explains, "It's just a provisional ranking. I'll be retaking the test in 1 week." Of course, the protagonist is lying through his teeth. The second test takes place in a dungeon, and he has a shopping list of specific items to find before he even thinks about it. He tells them not to worry. He should keep pushing up the tower, promising to get in touch with them down the line. The first trial is all about gauging your raw magical potential and slapping a rank on you. Pass that, and you're on to the next challenge. The rules are dead simple. Just clear a dungeon inside the test tower. Since you can pick your own poison, almost everyone opts for the easy goblin or orc dungeons. But he's not heading there. He's making a beeline for some ruins exclusive to the first floor, a place that's strictly off-limits. It's a zone that's never been cleared, even though it first showed up in the tower 11 years back. And in this timeline, nothing has changed. It's been ages since he last set foot in this dungeon. Welcome to the Chamber of the Fallen, a cavern of floating stones. Unfortunately, he's got company, and it's seriously testing his patience. They're deep in the mountain ruins on the test tower's ground floor. As a measly F ranker, he can't just waltz in by himself. The guild regulators wouldn't allow it. His only way in was to sign on as a porter, hauling supply boxes on his back. A fellow porter strikes up a conversation, asking what brought Kang to a place like this. Kang keeps it simple. "I need the cash. I'm on my own." The cheerful guy replies, "I'm doing this for my wife and kids." Our hero knows all too well that guys with that mindset are always the first to bite the dust. The porter gives him a friendly warning. F ranks have to be extra careful, because one wrong move and it's game over. There are no medics coming to save them here. Jin just states that everyone on this team is going home in one piece. The man is a little confused by the confidence, but thanks him for the sentiment, noting he's way more optimistic than the rest of the crew. The raid on the ruins of the Chamber of the Fallen is about to kick off. It's an S difficulty quest. The goal: take down the boss and seize the throne of the ruins. The grand prize is a divine relic. But if they botch the boss fight, their choice of loot will be severely restricted. Meanwhile, the porters have reached a designated rest area, giving them a moment's peace before the real chaos begins. Just then, his bonus for being the first to conquer the tower materializes, containing a set of special items. He opens it, instantly gaining an extra 10 points in both luck and adaptability. His cold heart skill kicks in, a neat little trick that lets him keep his cool no matter how intense things get. On top of that, his passive skill, Monopolize activates. This ability stockpiles the previous reward he received and uses it to amplify any future rewards offered. Our protagonist can barely contain his excitement. These skills are game changers. He thinks about how incredible it felt to snag a top-tier reward from the thousands available in the tower. But from now on, probability and chance are completely irrelevant to him. Not with these new powers in his arsenal, out of nowhere. A portal shimmers open, and a group of men steps through. One of them grumbles, "Man, I'll never get used to that teleport headache." The porters immediately recognize them. This is the main assault squad from the notorious Ball Guild. Using his Eye of Truth skill, he decides to scan the man who looks like the team captain. The guy is barking orders, getting his squad into formation as they move, making sure they stick with the advanced team. His name is Song Chunhwa, level 14, 29 years old, and his stats are through the roof. The condition to copy his skills. He has to earn the man's absolute loyalty during this single raid. Our veteran hero feels a chill. That's going to be a tough nut to crack. Gaining the loyalty of an attack captain from one of the nation's top 10 guilds is no small feat. Kang finds the condition a bit bizarre, but figures it's fine as long as it doesn't make him late for his porter duties. The guild's mage announces, "It gets pitch black from here. Stick close to me, because anyone who gets lost is on their own." He activates a level 1 illumination spell with his staff, bathing the entire zone of these sprawling ruins in light. The group immediately sees that the monsters the advance party fought have been utterly decimated. What's more, the whole place has a deeply strange and unsettling vibe. Someone reports to Chunhwa that the porter group has arrived and that they need to trail the guild. Our protagonist finds it suspicious that there wasn't a single casualty after a battle against so many monsters. That should have been impossible, considering the kind of firepower he's seen this guild use in the past. Another porter snaps at him, "Don't just stand there gawking. Get them their water and ice." He's just a lowly porter, and he needs to serve the foreigners. These so-called foreigners are clad in unique armor, with a distinct cross symbol emblazoned on their shoulder guards. He was wondering who they were, but then it clicks. They're the European elite, the Zion Guild. Kang spots a particularly short person in their ranks and decides to try and get on their good side. As he delivers the refreshments, he starts making small talk, activating his communion skill. The effect is instantaneous. His target gets a favorable impression of him, and that short night turns out to be a stunningly beautiful woman. Our hero instantly knows who she is. The youngest daughter of Europe's prestigious Laurentia family. She's known as a jack of all trades. Her divine power lets her attack, defend, and even heal. She's the legendary heroine from Amsterdam, the city that was nearly wiped off the map by a monster outbreak. As one of Europe's most celebrated players, she's hailed as the Saint of Amsterdam, Teresa de Laurentiis. It all made sense now. The reason their group had 0 casualties was because she was here. Everyone is scrambling to climb the tower, yet she oddly chose these ruins over tackling the 3rd-floor boss. His Truth Eye skill tries to activate, but it fizzles out. The level gap between them is just too massive for it to work. He can't wrap his head around how wide the power difference is. This girl must be way past level 20. But then, his boosted luck and adaptability stats kick in, completely negating the level disparity. Thanks to that cheat, his Truth Eye skill levels up to 2 and fires off successfully. He can now see her status window. Teresa de Laurentiis is 22 years old and a staggering level 29. Her attributes are off the charts, placing her easily among the top 100 players worldwide. To copy all of her abilities, the condition is simple. He has to save her life when she's in mortal danger. He's not shocked that everyone fawns over her. Her stats are genuinely insane. He then spots that she has an active class quest, which explains why she ditched the boss fight to come to these ruins. The girl offers him her thanks. Our protagonist replies, "No, I should be thanking you. Your presence here is a godsend." He's ecstatic. This is his chance to get his hands on an innate ability, the most powerful one. AC Paladin can have Blessing of the Stars. The only catch is that he needs to somehow manufacture a life-threatening situation for her and then swoop in for the rescue. That is, without a doubt, a ridiculously difficult condition to meet. Just then, frantic shouts cut through the air. They're screaming the guild captain's name, a clear sign that someone is in deep trouble. They yell to Hung that they've got a major problem on their hands, all thanks to the Guardian Sentinel. A system alert chimes. The Guardian of the Ruins has detected intruders and has initiated its attack protocol. You have 10 minutes left. The ruins security system activates a bomb the moment it detects any external presence. A disturbance that awakens the sentinel. They figure some idiot must have triggered it. But there's no time to complain. The beast is already awake, and they've only got 10 minutes. Fighting the Guardian with their current strength would be suicidal. They'd just get wiped out. His first instinct is to get the non-combatants to safety within those 10 minutes. But he immediately reconsiders. How can they accept defeat when they haven't even thrown a punch? Hyong is torn. He clawed his way to the rank of captain, and he refuses to let it all fall apart like this. Against all reason, he decides to push deeper into the ruins. Everyone thinks he's lost his mind, especially since their backup hasn't shown up. They try to warn him that guardians will swarm them from every direction, but he just orders them to follow, reminding them that he's the one in charge of this guild. He declares they can handle it without reinforcements because they have Saint Teresa on their side. Just then, other knights rush in, yelling that the guardians have woken up. They tell everyone not to panic, insisting that a massive guild like Balhae would never move forward without a solid plan. One man smugly adds, "You should just listen to the captain." He acts as if they've already crushed the guardians. Right then, a colossal sentinel materializes behind him and completely obliterates him, squashing him like a bug. The other warriors freeze in terror, staring down the sentinel knights. They brace themselves for an impossible fight, facing multiple sentinel guardians all at once. The vanguard shouts, "The guardians are here, prepare for battle." The captain immediately orders the tanks to the front and the carriers to the back. Everyone scrambles into position. He commands the supports to cast buffs on the tanks, cranking up their damage potential. Song Chunhwa unleashes his iron shield skill, level 3. He follows up with a level 2 wedge formation, creating a wall of shield bearers at the vanguard. Lee then activates his warrior song skill, level 2, bolstering the strength of the entire front line. With their formation set, they charge headfirst toward the sentinels. A grueling battle erupts. Countless buffed-up shield bearers push forward, desperately trying to take down the sentinels. But they soon cry out to the captain, "We need tanks over here, or we're not going to hold." They're also screaming for a healer as the solo players begin to drop like flies. The captain knew they'd take casualties. But at this point, there was nothing he could do. He didn't have the luxury of worrying about mere solo players. He had to focus on the guild members and their coordinated tactics. Meanwhile, the solo players, who lacked experience fighting in organized groups, were easily picked off by the sentinels. They realized they'd been left for dead, and would soon be wiped out if someone didn't intervene. But just in the nick of time, Saint Teresa unleashes her level 4 cross sign skill. Coming to the rescue of the solo players, she eradicates several sentinels in a single blow, saving their lives. She then spots 2 guardians that slipped past the main force, realizing the non-combatants were now completely exposed. Without a second thought, she bolts back toward the hall to protect the porters. Back at the supply camp, one of the porters had been left defenseless and was severely wounded. He knew it was over as a sentinel raised its axe for the finishing blow, but suddenly, that sentinel was sliced into pieces and felled by our protagonist. He remembered his promise to the old man that he'd get them all out of here alive. But there was no time to celebrate. As the porter screamed that another guardian was right on his tail, with lightning-fast reflexes, our hero evades and unleashes a fire skill. A massive grin spreads across his face as he gets ready to barbecue the giant knight. In a single blast, he brings the monster to its knees, leaving it for someone else to finish off. He has to maintain his level 1 cover, so he can't be the one to actually kill it. He can't wrap his head around why anyone would awaken the guardians of Seoul. A brutal difficulty ruin, there was absolutely no upside. He was just wondering which idiot was responsible when Saint Teresa arrived to save the porter. She had believed he was a good man, right up until she saw him holding a knife to a defenseless non-combatant. She immediately concludes that Kang Jin Hyuk was the one who woke the guardians and announces she's placing him under arrest. Before he can even process what's happening, he's deflecting a sword strike from Saint Teresa. She pleads with him, "Don't resist, I don't want to hurt you." He tries to tell her it's all a huge misunderstanding, but she's not listening to a word of it. She just keeps relentlessly attacking him with her weapons, realizing this has gone far enough. He finally fights back. He pins her against a stone wall, injuring her slightly, and holds his maxil dagger to her. making it clear that he's not the one who woke the sentinels. After all, if he had, he could have taken her out in an instant. The porter cries out, "Why? Are you two fighting? Kang just saved my life?" Hearing this, Teresa is mortified and apologizes profusely for the misunderstanding. Our protagonist is surprisingly forgiving, saying, "Anyone would have made the same mistake in that situation." She then asks him, "So why did you hide your real identity from me?" Jin Hyuk replies, "For the same reason you're hiding yours. I'm on a secret class quest. I need to get my hands on St. Peter's written oath, and I'm using the Zion Guild as a smokescreen. There's also a hidden item I'm looking for." She's stunned that he knows all this. He continues, "I need to learn every strategy for this ruin, and I think that's going to hinge on your skills. So, what do you say we tackle this journey together?" Meanwhile, the guild captain insists that they need to regroup their forces to advance. He tells Teresa, "There's no reason for you to go off on your own," but she fires back. "You have a map of the ruins leading to the checkpoint, and you should already know the strategy. Besides, our contract clearly states that each team operates under its own command and moves independently." Faced with such a solid argument, the captain is at a loss for words. Finally, he concedes. "But with a condition, you have to regroup with us before we get to the edge of the Choi's map." Saint Teresa agrees, saying, "I'll find you. I promise." She then asks, "Can I take a porter with me for support?" Captain Hung allows it, as long as she brings him back. The other porters know she's walking into a death trap, and not a single one wants to go. But then our hero raises his hand and volunteers, declaring, "I'll go with you." The other porters try to talk him out of it, saying, "You can't do that, it's way too dangerous." But he knows he'll never get what he wants in this stifling atmosphere, so he asks them if they've forgotten what it was like to burn with passion when they were young. Just like him. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he yells that this is his moment, a chance to fight for love, even if it kills him. The porters are so moved by his speech that they finally understand the young man's burning desire. They end up to back him up on his solo quest alongside Saintess Teresa, as expected. The place is crawling with undead, and at the center of it all is their prize St. Peter's written oath. It's resting on a sarcophagus surrounded by ghouls. Kang checks if she knows they need to smash the barrier around it first, and she gives him a confident nod. She gets it. Just then, a system warning pops up, stating that the owner of the Chamber of the Fallen is watching them. This is a huge deal, a direct message from the dungeon boss, who has never paid any attention to players before. The Saintess asks if he saw it too, convinced it came from the boss himself. However, she's confused about what watching them means and wonders if maybe the boss recognized her. But our protagonist, brimming with confidence, surprises her. He declares that he was the one who got noticed. Teresa then asks about the strategy he'd mentioned for this area. Without another word, the paladin leaps straight into the heart of the undead horde and activates her warrior's song ability. For the next 10 minutes, all her stats get a +3 boost. She's following the simple plan Kang laid out, get all the aggro. The moment she unleashes her divine power, every last monster rushes her like a tidal wave. The battlefield descends into chaos. She activates a holy light and begins carving through them nonstop. While she keeps them busy, our veteran hero weaves through the fight, stomping on their heads. Teresa has every monster completely focused on her. The only problem is, with her handling the mobs so efficiently, Kang's chances of leveling up are dropping. Suddenly, a bolt of red lightning slams down right between them, catching them both by surprise. The culprit is a lich, a skeleton in black robes with a red staff launching magic into their ranks. A sentry immediately lunges at our protagonist, who dodges with Matrix-like finesse. He realizes something is off. Headless knights aren't supposed to be in this area. He wonders why the spawn pattern changed, making a mental note to factor in external variables from now on. The Elite Lich's Black Thunder is designed to take out Headless Knights, and it's more than dangerous enough to one-shot a veteran player like him. Once again, the Lich starts charging its black lightning bolts, which crackle with a red aura. Our hero was already expecting it and calmly sidesteps the attack. He lets the blast slam directly into the Class 3 barrier, which is instantly shattered. By the spell, with the magical seal broken, the sarcophagus is finally exposed. Kang Jin then whips out his dagger and easily shatters the sentry. He smirks. "So, what's the big monster gonna do now?" After all, Teresa has pretty much wiped out the entire horde on her side. Only the elite lich is left. It takes a single cut and is instantly defeated. A figure then calmly steps on its skull, crushing it underfoot. The protagonist knows there's only one person who can read and predict monster movements with that kind of perfection. This newcomer says he knew he'd find Kang Jin here, then points a sword straight at him and says, "It's been a long time. Don't you recognize me?" In that instant, Kang activates his Eyes of Truth, a skill that isn't nullified by level differences. He immediately pulls up the target's status window. The man's name is Cho Yu. He's 28 years old, and he's level 29. The condition to copy his ability is to defeat him with a sword, the very weapon he trusts most. Choi is wielding an iron sword with Chen Long engraved on it, a blade that was stolen from the National Museum of Korea. Back in the days of the virtual game, there was this one guy who, after losing to Kang twice, relentlessly challenged him, no matter where they were or what they were doing. He was obsessed with his extreme warrior build. Kang asks, "Are you that psychopathic stalker from back then?" The man's face twists with annoyance, pissed that he wasn't recognized now that the game has become reality. Our protagonist definitely remembers him, but can't believe the museum thief is the same person, having lost to him countless times in the virtual game. The stalker asserts that things will be different now. He declares that since they've both been reset to the start, he will never lose to him again. Kang just says, "If you really want to fight, I won't stop you. But are you sure you'll be okay? My companion over there isn't just going to stand by and watch." When the stalker sees the Saintess, he realizes Kang has an annoying ally, but he declares he won't allow anyone to interfere in their duel. With that, Chi Yuang activates his battlefield selection skill. He slams his sword into the ground, creating a battle arena that instantly forms around the two of them. Our hero tells Saintess Teresa he'll find her after the duel is over. She has no time to react as he's transported into the combat arena. Once they arrive, the stalker says, "Nobody will disturb us here," and formally challenges our protagonist. Chusun activates his level 5 man-to-man skill, which boosts his own attributes. At the same time, Kang Jin's stats plummet by 10%. His abilities are severely hampered by the combined effects of the battlefield and man-to-man skills. This is a terrible combination for him. But because an extremely disadvantageous situation is detected, a special fusion condition kicks in. When a situation is disadvantageous for the original copy conditions, they get modified. Accordingly, just like that, the skill copy is approved, even before the conditions are fully met. Our hero decides to copy Cho Yuang's unique skill, the level 7 Song of the Sword. This skill skyrockets his understanding of swords by 200% and makes his attacks far more efficient. Subsequently, the copied skill is registered in Kang Jin's world memories. Annoyed, the stalker shouts, "You're ignoring me again," and charges at Kang Jin, his face twisted with hatred. Jin materializes his dagger, and they clash in an evenly matched duel of blades. Kang taunts him. "What's the plan? What happened to your mid-range fighting style after all? You've started fighting with a sword now, and you seem to be enjoying it." Absolutely furious, the stalker roars, "You were always ignoring me, right up to the very end." He then channels his soul-catching sword energy, attacking with full force and unleashing a flurry of attacks against our protagonist. "You're trying too hard," our protagonist says coolly, as if he were dealing with a beginner. He dodges every single one of the attacks. This infuriates the stalker. Being called a beginner when he's clearly not, Kang realizes his blade will break if he tries to block the sword energy head-on. So, he decides to create a new skill on the spot to counter it directly. He fuses the Song of the Sword with the demonic soul pill. As he runs the pill along the blade of his dagger, the fusion skill activates, and in that moment, the Song of the Sword and the demonic soul pill item are fused. A brilliant light erupts from his body, unlocking the unique SS rank skill Sword Tomb. This power boosts his understanding of swordplay by 500%. What's more, his body now automatically moves along the most efficient path in a fight. The skill activates in tandem with level 1 Black Moon Knight. This display of power isn't even a tenth of his original might. His current magical reserves aren't nearly enough to handle it all. He knows he has to keep getting stronger to reclaim his former glory. The stalker is in total disbelief, witnessing the immense power Kang now commands. This battlefield is supposed to be optimized for the stalker, And his opponent isn't even relying on his signature techniques. Everything should have been stacked in the stalker's favor. And yet, Kang Jin is completely dominating the fight, radiating an overwhelming aura. Kang lunges forward with his dagger. His enemy parries the attack, but the sheer force of the blow drives him downward, cracking the ground beneath him. To top it off, Kang sends his enemy's sword flying from his grasp. "Looks like I've beaten you again," he declares. This marks Kang's 138th victory. When the stalker asks to be finished off, our protagonist simply says, "Our next duel will just be number 139. He explains, "You need to understand, the tower isn't a game to be mocked. Rankers get wiped out the moment they let their guard down. That's why we need as many powerful players as we can get, especially ones like you." He then offers him a hand. The truth is, he needs another 60 days before he can buy a different skill from this guy. By keeping him around, he won't have to hunt him down again to copy his powers. Since his opponent can't wait to hand over his skills, he initiates the communion. The enemy admits, "I lost this time," but he vows that the next time, the result will be different. With that, the battlefield selection skill is deactivated. It occurs to Kang that he doesn't even know his rivals' real name. Kang brushes it off, saying they aren't close enough for that. Still, the man insists on knowing the protagonist's name. Our hero really doesn't want him to use his original in-game handle. Defying that unspoken wish, the man calls out his old name, Fart, in a flash. The protagonist changes the subject, asking Chunhwa, Don, Simangi Si Hyung if they've cleared out all the monsters. The mage reports that his detection magic is picking something up. He was sure he'd dealt with every last monster in the area. He warns that an unidentified being is heading their way. Suddenly, he looks up to see a colossal iron golem charging at them. Perched on its shoulder is a white-haired man with pointed ears. Seeing his features, the team captain instantly knows he's a high-ranking vampire.
The vampire introduces himself as Velis with a theatrical flair, welcoming the humans. "I am a blood-bound servant to Jinso, the
master of these ruins," he announces. The captain shoves a sword to Velis's throat, demanding to know his purpose. The vampire, realizing he's facing the leader, coolly states he's there to make them a proposition. In reality, he says, "It's a choice. Come with me quietly, or prepare for a brutal fight." Velis then activates his blood feast skill, which begins to manipulate all the ketchup in the area. The sauce starts to seep out from everyone's bodies. In this horrifying display, all the group members begin to lose the vital fluids inside them. Half of them are destined to become appetizers, while the rest are dragged away. This gruesome ability leaves Hyung completely frozen in terror as he watches his men die. Meanwhile, the paladin and our protagonist are on their own journey. She activates her level 5 divine purification skill. She then consumes the SSS-ranked frozen tear, and her magical power surges as she absorbs it. After the item is gone, her magic stats have climbed by 12 points. The frozen tear was discovered alongside the demonic soul stone and is an incredibly rare find. Thanks to her divine power, her attribute was already at 12, and now she's added another 12 on top of that. The protagonist is pleased with this result. Just then, the master of the fallen chamber sends them an invitation. It reads, "If you want to save the attack team, you must come to the inner hall and face the master. Accept this quest, and all monsters and traps on the way to the final chamber will be removed." Teresa figures out that the attack team members have been captured and are being used as hostages. Without a moment's hesitation, she declares, "I'll go." She sees no reason to waver, even if she can only rescue one person. Still, a doubt creeps in. Can she really defeat Jinso like this? She also worries about what will happen if she falls into Jinso's trap. Becoming just another one of the master's playthings, she can't fathom a fight against that monster without the full support of her team. All she ever wanted was to be a paladin who protects others, and now she fears she's made a terrible mistake. Her new ally tells her to forget about the attack team. "I'll go on ahead," he says. He adds that if she's struggling with the choice, she can take his advice. He states, "Jinso has no honor and is a purely selfish being. That's the very reason I keep challenging her, but even so, I'm confident that I'm the only person in this world who can actually take Jinso down." He apologizes for his long speech, and the paladin thanks him for his counsel. Teresa then offers to form a party with our protagonist. Our hero coolly replies, "My services don't come cheap." He asks if she's sure she wants to hire him. She promises, "I will give you every single coin I own if you'll help me fight the chamber master." Seeing her determination, he realizes the girl is serious and accepts the deal. Once the contract is sealed and they accept Jinso's mission, the monsters around them become docile, allowing them to advance to the final hall. The magical pressure radiating from the room is immense. Noticing her unease, Kang tells Teresa not to be scared and asks if she understands her opponent's power. In battle, he explains, the strongest fighter isn't always the one who wins. Kang Jin Hyuk reveals that he has a strategy. No matter what unfolds in there, he tells her, "You have to trust me." With that final instruction, they push open the massive gate to the last chamber. Inside, they see numerous people surrounding a throne. Standing beside it is the white-haired vampire, Velis, and lounging on the throne, looking relieved at their arrival, is Jinso Alice von Ataraxia. She announces, "I was getting tired of waiting for you." Our protagonist immediately asks if the people are unharmed. "I'll let you see for yourself," she replies. She then dispels her dimension-breaking ability, revealing all the people she's holding. Captive, our protagonist sees that even Park Hajin is tied up, blindfolded, and gagged. He's now absolutely certain that idiot was the one who foolishly awakened the Guardians. Jinso explains she lured them there because of the scent Kang gives off. "It's the most intoxicating aroma I've ever encountered," she purrs. "Far sweeter than his ketchup. Kang's delicious scent is unlike any other human's, and it's driving me wild." Kang thinks back, realizing no one has ever. She'd already mentioned how sweet his blood was, and he was getting seriously uncomfortable. Let's be real, it's unsettling when a vampire is eyeing you like a walking juice box. Jinso then declared, "I'm the type who likes to savor my meals. I'll grant you the privilege of living for at least 60 years. Kang immediately understood she planned to keep him by her side for the rest of his life with a permanent tap in his neck. While he was processing this, she launched a projectile that shattered the wall beside him. He shot back. "I appreciate the thought, but I have absolutely no intention of becoming your lifelong snack." His defiance clearly irritated the vampire. She retorted, "Your feelings on the matter are completely irrelevant." The paladin asked if he was okay. Our hero replied that he was fine since she'd missed. He then added, "This vampire is vicious, but I made her no promises. The only thing she's getting from me is something far sweeter than my blood." Jinso scoffed, "Your efforts are futile. Nothing is more valuable than your precious blood. I won't change my mind, regardless of what you put on the table." That's when our protagonist made an astonishing offer. "I'm offering you freedom." This sent the surrounding vampires into a rage. "How dare you speak that word in this sacred place?" they snarled. But Jinso silenced them with a single glance. She turned to Kang, her voice low. "You will answer for the words you just spoke." Kang replied coolly, "If I wasn't capable, I never would have come here in the first place." As she challenged him to prove it, Kang Jin Hyuk formally introduced himself. "As the representative of the demonic humans in the tower, I will liberate you all." While speaking, he slid a black mask over his face. Demonic humans is the name for those who have forsaken their humanity, whether for money, revenge, or their own twisted beliefs. These individuals often obstruct players from ascending the tower and occasionally even team up with monsters. The vampire acknowledged. "I've heard of your kind. Are you truly one of them?" Kang confirmed. "I've already been in contact with the temple on the Bois, 27th floor, and they told me precisely how you've been deceiving the barrier around these ruins." The paladin couldn't fathom how he was pulling off this act or how he planned to resolve everything. She also wondered what kind of power this temple held to inspire such fear. Kang pressed Jinso. "If you know of the temple, then you know my words are not a bluff. Just trust me." But the vampire refused. "I will not. It makes no difference whether you're a demonic human or not. Anyone can make empty promises about curing my condition. Besides, you're far too silver-tongued. That in itself makes me suspicious." With that, she activated her blood spear's ability, stating, "It's a shame I have to eliminate you. Your blood is just too delicious." She then unleashed a furious volley of spears right at him. Our protagonist, who had been standing respectfully, made no move to dodge. In a flash, Paladin Teresa jumped in front of him and activated Sacred. Reinforcement, a massive glowing cross-shaped shield erupted, completely protecting him from the assault. The spears disintegrated upon impact, unable to break through the barrier. Saint Teresa urged him to stay behind her. I'll resist with all my divine power. She then reinforced her shield, blasting the remaining spears away. The vampire commented, "It's amusing that you have to try so hard against such a weak attack." She added that divine power made her feel nauseous. Suddenly, Jinzo activated her blood explosion ability. "I will shatter that paladin," she declared. The paladin, meanwhile, questioned how much longer she could hold on. Despite her fear, she trusted that Jin Hyuk, standing right behind her, had a plan. But then, to her utter shock, he lunged forward and plunged his dagger deep into her back. The sudden betrayal stunned her. The girl, and even the vampire, couldn't comprehend what he had just done. He then addressed Jinzo. "If I can prove this is more than just a bluff, will you trust me then?" Jinzo found it morbidly entertaining that he had betrayed the very companion who was protecting him. Still, she demanded he show her more. The paladin managed to choke out, We were going to save everyone. You had a plan. Was this your plan all along?" Without saying a word, he coldly finished her off, her holy shield dissolving as her crimson blood stained the floor. The vampire let out a laugh, impressed by the human's cruelty, and gave him the floor. Our protagonist claimed, "I have a 7-star spell that can bypass the barrier, that traps you." He held up Bram's ring. "I can seal your soul inside this item, and the barrier will be fooled." She had never heard of a soul being sealed within an object before. Our hero then explained why he had intentionally kept his status at level 1, even giving up all the experience he could have acquired in the testing tower. It was all for the 7-star ability, soul transfer. This skill was the reason Kang did this, as it could only be used by someone at level 1. With the condition met, the 7-star soul transfer ability activated. A magic circle illuminated the ground. It had a cooldown of 1 year and could only contain a single soul. He received a system message the spell would only complete if he obtained the target's consent. The magic circle would vanish permanently after 1 minute, and the magic would only trigger if she accepted. He looked directly at the vampire. "What will you do, Jinso? Will you accept my proposal, or will you refuse?" Her underlings were shocked that such a spell could be used this way. Jinzo, however, sent a telepathic message to Val. "If Kang tries anything, kill him. He's not to be trusted." She was uneasy about consenting to a spell she'd never even heard of, but she had precautions in place. And she had been imprisoned for far too long. 1,000 years had passed since her exile here. If she didn't take this chance, she might never escape this underground prison. She asked one final time if she could trust him and extended her hand. Kang Jin replied, "If you grant me this honor, I swear Jinzo will not regret it." Jin Hyuk then secretly activated his communion ability, causing the target to feel a sense of trust toward him. She finally allowed the soul transfer. Bram's ring began to absorb the soul of the progenitor, Alice. The ritual commenced within the magic circle, and her soul flowed into the ring. As it finished, she noted that it wasn't as bad as she'd feared. It was actually rather comfortable. Our hero picked up the ring. "I'm glad you're enjoying your new home." Jinzo's voice echoed from the ring, confused. "What did you just say about a new home?" At that moment, the unique ability Star's Blessing activated. It turned out the paladin was still alive, and she slowly began to get to her feet. He pulled off his mask and welcomed Teresa back. The blessing revives a person 1 time, as long as their death wasn't instantaneous. This brought the paladin back to life with a knowing smile, as if this had been their plan all along. Just as our hero realizes the mask is no longer necessary, the vampire queen sealed inside his ring unleashes a torrent of curses. She then commands her underlings to take down our protagonist. Velis instantly summons his blade, ready for a fight. Teresa issues an order. "Keep Jinzo alive. We have a lot of questions for him." With matters still unresolved, they brace themselves for a clash with the vampires. Velis roars, "You're not walking out of here alive." After turning on our master, he unleashes his blood wave skill, sending a crimson tide surging toward them. Meanwhile, our hero counters with his level 5 fire element ability, He smashes a massive column of fire into the ground, completely neutralizing the vampire's magic and shattering their spell. He quickly tells Teresa, "Get the hostages to safety." Teresa immediately activates her Sign of the Cross skill to rescue Hyung and the bones. Rest of the attack squad. The captain, relieved to see Saint Teresa, asks her, "What's the status on the vampires?" She simply replies, "Kang is dealing with them by himself." This prompts the vampire to sneer. "How can a mere human possibly defy my power?" Our hero points out that fire magic is his natural counter. He then adds that they're overlooking one critical fact, declaring, "The moment your master was sealed, you already lost." He then unleashes his unique skill, Tomb of Swords. While equipping his mask and a materialized dagger, Velis responds by activating the Dark Battle Spirit. Realizing his magic is useless, he shouts, "I'll cut you down with my blade, I'll break that ring and set our master free." Following his battle cry, the entire horde of enraged vampires charges our hero. Back with the squad, the captain is floored to hear he's fighting all of them alone. Just who is that guy, he demands. Teresa understands that he wears the mask because he wants to keep his identity hidden. In that short time, our hero had already decimated all the vampires with ease. She then explains, "I only met him by chance. I really don't know much about him." She continues, "That stab wound really hurt. I never thought my first death would come from someone I considered an ally. But despite all that, we managed to pull through, and it was all worth it in the end." Saint Teresa breaks down in tears, thanking Kang Jin Hyuk for ensuring the group's survival and for saving her life. Teresa, the wielder of the unique skill, Star's blessing. By saving her, he meets the conditions to copy her unique ability, the SS-level skill, which grants him the power to revive from death, is now seared into his memory. He asks her, "Why are you crying?" The paladin sobs, "I just can't seem to control my emotions right now." She then asks if he was aware that she could come back to life. Our hero already knew, having analyzed her skills earlier, but he plays dumb and says, "I'm just glad you're okay." They agree to head into the ruins immediately to collect the divine artifacts. But just then, the captain shows up and declares, "All items from this raid belong to my guild." Kang retorts that since he saved all their lives, it's ridiculous for them to claim the rewards. "I saved your lives. It's completely unfair for you to demand the loot." Song replies, "Look, I'll give you a better prize, cold, hard cash, enough to make you happy." Our protagonist finds the captain's audacity completely pathetic and says, "If you want the artifacts that badly, go ahead and take them." The captain's face lights up until our hero adds, "Whatever happens next, you're going to regret this." His eyes fall upon the fragment of Merlin's staff, the very artifact Chunhwa covets more than anything. Even though his entire attack force was captured, the captain thinks he can salvage his reputation by securing the items from the ruins. But the second his hand touches the staff, he gets a jolt of energy, and a strange mark burns itself onto his skin. Kang explains that while the staff is crafted from exquisite materials, it's also laced with a powerful curse. It contains a life force that can only be claimed after defeating Alice. But since she's still very much alive inside the ring, that curse remains active, witnessing the curse's effect on one's minds. The captain, Saint Teresa, is left speechless. The two of them then turn and leave, elsewhere, at the entrance to Seoul's test tower. The department chief is being pressed about whether his source was lying or telling the truth. He simply responds that they'll just have to wait and find out. He also snaps at Agent Young to quit, complaining. At the same time, an affiliate of the Awakened Association decides to mobilize based on the intel they received. Agent Young mentions that the experts estimated it would take at least 3 weeks to clear the dungeon. The chief, however, is worried that the informant wasn't from the Balhi Guild and has a terrible feeling about the whole affair. In that instant, an alert declares the Hall of the Depraved Ruin has been completed. The news leaves the department chief utterly stunned. Moments later, the warriors of the Balhi Guild start walking out of the ruins. They're immediately swarmed with congratulations for clearing the first floor and barraged with questions. Reporters start asking who the raid's MVP was, assuming it had to be the captain, but then Manhwa stumbles out, missing his hair, eyebrows, and even his eyelashes. A look of pure defeat on his face. Seeing the battered condition of the returning party, the reporters demand to know what really went down inside that ruin. Saint Teresa then steps forward to tell the world the shocking truth. It wasn't Song Chanhwa who cleared the ruin, she announces. Nor was it the Zion Guild. She reveals that the masked man conquered the dungeon all by himself. The rest of them, she clarifies, were little more than spectators to our protagonist's incredible feat. A woman from the department insists they need to contact the association right away. She emphasizes that many of them wouldn't have made it out alive and would have been forced to retreat if not for that masked player. Across countless online forums, everyone is buzzing about the identity of this mysterious player. News reports about him are spreading like wildfire across the web. Our hero scrolls through the articles, realizing they're filled with a lot of pointless speculation. Since the writers have no real information on him, he sees tons of wild theories and a much bigger reaction than he ever expected, which just confirms that wearing the mask was the right call, since Teresa is the only person who knows who he really is, and she swore to keep his secret. He figures he's in the clear. With that business handled, he decides it's time for a chat with the vampire inside the ring. Jinso immediately starts screaming at him for leaving her trapped for a full day. She tries to intimidate him. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she yells. She then demands to know his intentions, but suddenly feels a wave of nausea as he starts spinning the ring around. He casually asks if she feels any better. "If you were in my shoes, you'd feel the exact same way," she snaps, but clearly disoriented. She claims that vampires have short memories when it comes to grudges. "Just don't you dare do that again," she warns, "and wipe that look off your face." Our protagonist, however, doesn't even flinch, as he keeps the ring spinning. "Time for a fitting punishment," he declares. Jinso's pleas turn into sobs. "Please, make it stop," she whimpers, the nausea almost overwhelming her. He then activates his vampiric separator skill, whipping the artifact at blinding speeds. The sheer velocity is enough to leave the vampire inside completely scrambled and disoriented. 3 hours later, he finally picks up the ring once more. Jinso is still reeling, sick to her stomach, as he begins pumping his magical power into the artifact. With a sudden blast of energy, the vampire materializes before him. A wicked grin spreads across her face. "Finally," she hisses, "it's time for my revenge, to repay you for all the humiliation you put me through." But her triumphant moment shatters when she realizes she's incredibly tiny, almost like a doll. Kang Jin Hyuk had only summoned a sealed fragment of her being. She was like a chibi version of Alice, unable to call upon even 1% of her true power. But even with this massive handicap, she was still miles stronger than your average vampire. "Enough crying, listen to me," he cuts in. "What I told you back in the ruins wasn't a lie." Alice just scoffs. "This isn't the kind of freedom I want." She snaps. Our hero calmly clarifies. "This isn't the freedom I promised you, but I can give you the freedom you truly crave." A flicker of hope cuts through her despair, and her tears stop. "What are you talking about?" she asks. He lays out the deal. If she helps him crush everyone who betrayed her, he'll help her reclaim her rightful place as the leader of the Ataraxia family. Not long after, a new video of his incredible raid is uploaded to the Hall of Fame. Most people had assumed the raid was a total suicide mission. Fans were freaking out, saying it was the most intense thing they'd ever watched, even knowing he had already won. They were absolutely blown away by how he effortlessly incinerated the vampires with his fire magic. It didn't take long for people to realize he was the same legend from the Swamp of Greed video. One commenter summed it up perfectly. "If the Saint of Amsterdam herself recognized this guy, then we should all be bowing down to him." People figured that after a stunt like this, every top guild would be throwing money at him to get him to join. Our protagonist had heard that guilds were practically drowning in cash, and as he stood before a massive skyscraper, he realized just how true that was. He didn't care if a major guild monopolized the system or was corrupt to its core. But trying to get him whacked, that was a line Kang Jin would never let anyone cross. For those who messed with him, he'd only bring one thing: absolute ruin. The second he walked into the building, Kang Jin locked eyes with the security team. Without hesitation, he summoned his fire magic and unleashed hell in their direction. Meanwhile, up on the rooftop, the guild leader was fuming. "I ordered you to take care of that guy quietly in the ruins," he raged. But all you did was awaken the Guardians and make a colossal mess. Our reputation is in the gutter, and this whole disaster is about to go public because of you." This was Shinayan Su, the master of the Black Raven Guild, who then backhanded Park for being so damn useless. A moment later, a wave of fire blasted the doors open, sending guards flying. Our protagonist stood there in the doorway, having already wiped the floor with everyone. "Are you the guy in charge here?" he asked. In total shock, Shinonsu just yelled, "Get him, now!" Seeing this as the perfect chance to suck up and regain his title as the super rookie, Park Hajin decided to charge straight at Kang Jin. But as our protagonist took off his mask, the kid recognized him instantly right before a brutal punch sent him flying across the room. Shinonsu, absolutely livid at the disrespect, snarled, "You'll pay for this." He then activated his swift sword skill to take on our hero, while Shingayan-su was still fumbling for his sword, which was still in its sheath. Our protagonist casually plopped down into an armchair. Shinansu lunged forward, convinced that Kang Jin couldn't even track his movements. Boasting that he was faster than the speed of sound, he thought this kid was about to be sliced into ribbons. But to Shinayan-su's complete and utter shock, his blade shattered into a million pieces, broken by a single Go board game stone. "These things are perfect for throwing," our protagonist noted. He remained seated, another stone between his fingers, and calmly asked, "So, Shinan, are we ready to talk now?" Shinan then sputtered, "You came here for revenge. Kang, all this. Just because I tried to have you killed, you're tearing down this whole building for that?" Suddenly, another game piece shot out and slammed into Shinan, injuring him badly. As he collapsed to the ground, dazed, our protagonist said flatly, "Your words are out of line. You've done a lot more than just that." The old man began to plead, "Please, stop this. You've had your revenge. Let's be rational. We have 50 high-ranking players climbing the tower as we speak." He pressed on, "If you kill me, they will hunt you to the ends of the earth to avenge me. Revenge only creates more revenge unless one side forgives. This cycle will never end," Kang Jin actually admitted. "That makes sense, but that's just something people say to sleep better at night." He picked up more game pieces. "I'm going to end this the right way. I'll be the last one standing, and then you can forgive me." "That's insane," Shinan argued as Kang Jin began channeling powerful magic into his hand. The old man was terrified as Kang Jin declared, "I'm just following the guild leader's logic." And with that, he unleashed a hailstorm of projectiles, each game piece glowing with magic. The guild leader was blasted across the room and completely obliterated by the barrage. Kang Jin then turned to Hajin and said, "The only reason you're still breathing is because of your sister. My advice to you is to stay the hell out of my way until I die of old age." Then he glanced at a body in the corner and commanded, "You, playing dead, get up. If you can prove you're useful, I'll let you live. Introduce yourself." The man scrambled to his feet. He was Kim Hai-wong, 26 years old, and he had been managing the guild's general affairs. He quickly added that he had a degree in computer science and swore to obey our protagonist. Kang Jin was impressed. This complicated things a bit. It felt like a total waste to just destroy one of the top guilds. So instead, he decided to put Kim Hai-wong in charge of it all. Kang Jin told him, "It's nothing crazy, just keep things looking normal." However, Kim argued that even if he became the new guildmaster, nobody would actually listen to him. Kang Jin knew that a non-combatant suddenly getting promoted to the top spot would cause an uproar. "Don't worry about anyone who opposes you," Kang Jin assured him. "I'm not going to deal with them myself. It'd be too much of a hassle." Our protagonist decided he'd get someone else to handle that particular chore. Moments later, a message was blasted out to everyone. It announced that all guild members of A rank and higher have been ordered to assemble on the rooftop. One guy starts complaining, wondering who calls an emergency meeting when they're all swamped, right in the thick of a dungeon raid. But orders are orders, so they have no choice. Grumbling, every single A-rank player from the Black Crow Guild starts making their way to the base. One of them points out the huge crowd gathered in front of the building. Then they see him, their leader, lying unconscious on the roof of a crumpled car. It's obvious he was chucked from the top of the building and landed hard enough to be taken out. The player wonders who could have sent the emergency signal if the guildmaster was down for the count. As he gets to the top floor, he spots Kim Hai-wong, who's already gathering his magic. The guy demands, "What's a secretary doing in the guildmaster's chair?" And lunges to attack. He shouts, "You better start talking and tell me what the hell happened." Kim calmly explains that some new management has taken over. He then gestures to Alice, who's standing right behind him. Alice sighs. "This whole thing is so tiresome. I told them to handle it cleanly so I wouldn't have to get involved." The player is completely stunned. He stammers, "You're telling me that little kid did all of this?" Well, calling Alice Ataraxia a kid was a massive mistake. She gets absolutely furious, shooting a death glare at the A ranker. A split second later, a colossal explosion rips through the rooftop. Our hero gets it now. Alice completely ignored his instructions to take over the guild without making a scene. Meanwhile, the Awakened Association is bugging him to submit his test results soon. It's already been 2 months since the testing tower first showed up, and the entire world is still reeling from the changes. While some are adjusting to this new reality, the papers are running special features on the mysterious masked player. That whole incident drew a ton of eyes. I mean, the guy soloed an entire dungeon without a proper team. On top of that, only 2 other people know. He went into that raid disguised as a simple porter. The first is Kim, the former porter captain, who swore to keep the secret. The second is Saint Teresa, who also gave her word to stay silent. This setup allows him to move around much more freely, juggling his masked identity and his regular life. Back inside the Awakened Association building, all the requirements have been met, with nothing holding him back anymore. It's finally time for him to start dominating the game. The certification process is surprisingly straightforward. His official rank comes out as F. He bumps into a few of his old porter buddies, who are all bragging about how much they've leveled up. They've got a few new faces with them, who claim they know Kang. As everyone starts chatting, he decides to introduce Alice as a player he met from Northern Europe. Spilling the beans that she's actually a vampire would just cause a massive panic, so he keeps that detail to himself. Next, he introduces Kim, explaining he'll be managing the administrative side of the Black Crow Guild, and a few other things. The secretary chimes in, "Hey, if you're a friend of Kang's, then I've got your back too." This is the first time he's ever properly introduced himself to them. Compared to his old life, this feels like heaven. He tells them, "From now on, if you need anything, just come to me. I'm the real guildmaster now." They're all floored to hear that he's actually taken over the entire Black Crow Guild. He then starts chewing Alice out for blowing up the building just because someone called her a child. She tries to defend herself, saying, "After living for thousands of years, I refuse to be bothered by such petty insults." But our protagonist isn't hearing any of it. He just tells everyone they're all going hunting together, and since they're heading out, he's going to need Alice's power. She scoffs. Is there even a single hunting ground left in this world worth our time? She's got a point. As long as the 3rd floor boss is alive and the 4th floor is locked, all the best. Dungeons are controlled by the major guilds. There aren't any undiscovered spots left. At least, that's what everyone else believes. But he knows something they don't. On the very first floor of the testing tower lies the Moon Lake, a spot renowned for having the most breathtaking view in the entire tower. The irony is that nobody even bothers coming here anymore. It's been ages since he was last here. With humanity on the brink of extinction, nobody has time for sightseeing. So, the lake is always deserted. Even though the place is gorgeous, Alice has no idea how he expects to find anything to hunt here. Then, to her surprise, he starts wading right into the lake. She just figures he's about to get his pants wet. But our hero knows that 12 hidden statues control the Moon Lake, and one of those statues has a secret function. Its job isn't just to manage the lake. Alice snarks. "What? Is there some kind of secret button?" He shoots back. "If it were that simple, don't you think someone would have found it by now?" As he gets closer, he recalls that hundreds of players have found the small gap in this particular statue. It's practically common knowledge in the community forums. The catch is that, to this day, nobody has ever found the key that fits. That's because the key isn't a physical object. It's the moonlight itself. Our protagonist is the only one who knows this, and he expertly cups his hand to focus the light, adjusting the angle of the beams to match the precise sequence carved into the stone hidden inside the slot. At last, with a low rumble, the mechanism activates. All that work pays off as a hidden door leading underground begins to open right in front of him. Kang Jin Hyuk steps through and gets a system notification he's just entered the first underground floor of the testing tower. Alice materializes from her ring, stunned. She had no idea a place like this even existed beneath the tower. It's been so long since she's felt this kind. A forgotten freedom. Kang, ever the veteran, smirks. So, happy you made that deal with me now. She won't give him the satisfaction of agreeing, but she does admit that he wasn't bluffing. Our protagonist channels the star's blessing to call forth its divine power, triggering the second unfreezing of the frozen tear. With that, his magic power stat jumps by 18, and the ability's cooldown is only 24 hours. After reabsorbing the tear, he finds it's now even easier to control Alice. He pauses for a moment, wondering what the beings native to this tower think of players like him. Now that the game is reality, does someone like Alice, who's ancient, even realize she's not in a game anymore? He decides to ask her, but his words get censored, and she can't understand a thing he's saying. He realizes that any information about the tower's true nature is completely blocked. Still, just learning that he can't talk about it with tower beings is a huge discovery. Suddenly, Alice's sharp senses pick up something approaching. The dark, sharp claws of a creature start scraping toward them, and Kang immediately begins preparing a fire spell. He calls this first underground floor the monster spawn field. For a good reason, it's crawling with these pitch-black insects that just keep coming. The moment the first one lunges at Kang, our hero unleashes his spell and instantly turns it to ash. With a grin, he looks at the ashes, completely unfazed. An endless horde of monstrosities spewed forth from the abyss. A massive level 25 beetle suddenly materialized. Catching Alice off guard, our hero immediately told her to get behind him. As he stepped up to face the creatures, he unleashed the star's blessing, firing a beam of pure divine light straight at the beast. The blast was blinding, and it scorched away 30% of the monster's physical defenses. He turned to Alice and challenged her to show him what she could do. The vampire scoffed. "A noble such as myself doesn't fight." "Disgusting insects," Kang shot back. "You're not a noble anymore." With a sigh, she finally gave in, unleashing her blood connection ability. A torrent of crimson liquid blasted towards the bugs, instantly encasing several of them in strange capsules. Jin Hyuk thought her snobby attitude was perfect. It was exactly what he needed for the gap attribute to kick in, because he was level 100. The attribute slashed the level difference by 33, which meant he could skyrocket his own level by taking down these abyss scarabs. Jin Hyuk had been growing sick of sandbagging, deliberately keeping himself at level 1. Now, these abyss beetles were going to be his ticket to power. Activating his sword tomb skill, he bolted straight into the swarm of monsters. Jin wanted every last one of these abyss insects to keep coming at him, relentlessly, until he was done leveling. Meanwhile, over in the Olympus Guild's conference hall, the leader called the room to order, announcing the meeting was officially underway. Patrick, the representative from the Titan Guild, delivered the grim news their 8th attempt to clear the 4th floor had ended in disaster. They had sent in 15 attack forces, each 100 strong, but only 9 of those teams made it back. He explained the boss on the 3rd floor wasn't the main issue. The real problem was figuring out how to get past its insane 100,000 stat points. Tenwi, representing the Junhua Guild, chimed in, pointing out that they'd failed even when using a divine artifact. He then posed the critical question. How are we supposed to get through that ridiculous army of statues? Maria from the Olympus Guild offered her take. The previous raids were over too fast for the players to adapt and grow stronger. She argued that if they just had a critical mass of players over level 15, they could pull off a win. But then Bake, the captain of the Dean Guild's 3rd raid team, abruptly pointed a finger at the Junhua Guild, accusing them of rigging the dungeons. He also claimed they were hoarding all the magic crystals. Tenwei wasn't about to let that slide. The tension in the room instantly snapped, and the two men started shouting, practically at each other's throats. The man who organized the meeting slammed his fist on the table, demanding they stop. "This is no time for infighting," he declared. "We're here to solve our shared problems, not create new ones." He then dropped a bombshell just before dawn. They had been contacted by the demonic humans. They were offering to help, but only if their conditions were met. The room bristled with anger at the very idea of teaming up with them. After all, the demonic humans were wanted criminals across the globe. The thought of working with that kind of scum was repulsive. However, the influence of the guilds now eclipsed that of any government. Wielding that power for the greater good was more critical than ever. For this reason, he figured the demonic humans knew exactly what they were doing. Just then, the air in the room grew thick and heavy as dark magic began to swirl. Out of the shadows, a demonic human materialized, saying, "You wound us by calling us trash." He taunted them, claiming they couldn't achieve a single thing without the demonic human's help. As soon as he appeared, the guild leaders were on their feet, yelling, "We're going to destroy you!" An enraged Beck even grabbed a whole table and hurled it right at him. Tenwei remarked dryly, "Well, that's the first time Beck and I have ever seen eye to eye." The demonic human just smirked. "If you change your minds after hearing our proposal, we can join forces. That way, you'll finally have the firepower to take on the third-floor boss." But Beck just scoffed. "The Demonic Human Association doesn't even have 100 members." The man in the black cloak wielding a skull staff simply said, "We don't rely on numbers." He then struck his staff into the floor, activating the unique truth gravedigger of the Black Tomb. Outside, skeletal remains clawed their way out of the earth. He explained that, thanks to generations of war, there was no shortage of useful corpses buried right here. On top of that, they had a demonic human member with unparalleled knowledge of necromancy, which would come in handy. The meeting's leader realized he was looking at a necromancer, but found it unbelievable that one man could control an army of that scale. He wondered if that staff of his was some powerful artifact. The necromancer corrected him. "This is the Staff of Greed, a special item that can only be crafted by gathering 99 unique materials." Wei's eyes widened. If you're talking about the legendary combination of the Staff of Greed and a necromancer, then the chances of clearing the third-floor raid are actually pretty good. Even though they knew the demonic humans were pure evil and needed to be wiped out, it didn't change the fact that their offer was tempting. If they agreed to a condition, no one would ever have to know what it was. And the payoff could be huge. Maria couldn't believe her eyes. Even Beck had ended up caving. She realized they were completely backed into a corner. She questioned how things had come to this, how they were actually entertaining the idea of allying with demonic humans. She thought, if only Jin Hyuk were here, none of this would be happening. She felt hopeless, wondering what to do. Then, out of nowhere, the incoming video call popped up. The caller ID read Kang Jin Hyuk. The moment the call connected, our protagonist's voice came through. "Is Teresa okay? Is her leveling going well?" Kang Jin Hyuk then asked what was going on over there. The demonic human immediately jumped in, demanding to know who he was. "Reveal yourself," he commanded. "Stop hiding behind a screen." Just then, the call switched to video, and our protagonist, Jin Hyuk, filled the screen. Everyone recognized him instantly. He was the mysterious player who had cleared the first-floor ruins all by himself. The legendary super rookie who pulled off the impossible solo. Guilds from all across Seoul. The world had been desperately trying to recruit him. The one super rookie everyone had been hunting for was now staring right at them. They had all tried to get in touch with him, and now they could hardly contain their excitement at seeing him. The demonic human just chuckled, finding the whole thing hilarious. He admitted he'd heard the stories about Jin Hyuk clearing the first-floor ruins, but he warned him that this boss raid was a whole different league. Our protagonist then shot back, "And you really think you can win this?" The demonic human bragged that he had an entire army ready for this exact fight, and the guild representatives reluctantly nodded in agreement. But our protagonist wasn't buying it. "Not with a fake staff. You can't." The accusation hung in the air, leaving the demonic human completely stunned. Jin Hyuk then laid it all out. He revealed that a saint's heart and a prison uniform doused in holy oil were the actual materials used to forge the staff. The guild leader demanded to know if Jin Hyuk had any proof to back up his claim. Jin Hyuk had already spelled it out. The authentic Staff of Greed sports a red gem right under the skull, and there's no way to craft the real deal using only materials from the initial 3 floors. Besides, taking a good look at the skeleton soldiers posted outside, you can tell they're complete trash. They wouldn't last a second. It's crystal clear to Jin Ha the guy's planning to ditch his entire guild and make off with their coins and gear. This realization sends the demonic human into a fury. Who bellows? Kang will live to regret turning down my offer. He then sneers, wondering if Kang will maintain that arrogant attitude. When they finally meet in person, after spitting out that threat, the demon vanishes, leaving the guild members in a panic, asking what to do now. Kang Jin simply says, "You can leave everything to me." He assures them they won't need to join forces with demons, and they'll still pocket the rewards for clearing the tower. They're skeptical, asking if he can really handle it all by himself. He confirms, "I will," even if he bites the dust. The awakened leaders figure it's still a perfect chance to recruit him. Compared to siding with demonic humans, this option is all upside and no downside. Because of this, the guild leaders refuse to let this opportunity slide. Maria pipes up, "The Olympus Guild will provide any assistance you require." The Titans Guild follows, "We will offer the absolute best financial support." Seeing them all jump to offer help, our hero tells them he doesn't need anything. He just asks them to secure the perimeter so that no other hunter can interfere, leaving him to work alone. One of the guild leaders asks, "Why would you do all of this for us?" Our protagonist pauses, scrambling to think of a good excuse. He lands on, "It's for someone I consider a precious companion." The moment the words are out, though, he's hit with a massive wave of secondhand embarrassment. Hearing she's his precious companion makes Saint Teresa blush with happiness. Beck, on the other hand, has a huge theatrical reaction to the news that this is all about companionship. As a guild representative, Beck is left totally dumbfounded, and Kang's words force him to do a little soul-searching. They then get a pop-up notifying them that the call is being recorded. Any ordinary person would have started demanding payment right then. However, these guild leaders aren't seeing the full picture. A player who puts friendship before rewards earns a type of currency that far outweighs any payment. The video conference ends right then and there. Kang Jin Hyuk has already hit level 12. After spending less than a single day in the monster field, things are unfolding even better than our protagonist had hoped. Just then, however, Alice stomps over, annoyed that she's been saddled with all the work. The girl complains, "We don't have a partnership. This is a slave contract, and it's seriously hurting my feelings." Our hero simply reminds her that he offered to buy her a band supplement, but she argues that those things are useless. She explains, "Supplements can't actually recharge my mana. If I'm running low, I can't back you up." So, she declares, "I'll just take back all the mana you've burned through." As she says this, she literally starts to drool. Our protagonist gets spooked and tells her, "Whoa, take it easy for a second." Before he can react, she bites into the veteran's neck and siphons some of his mana. She pulls back and says, "That was delicious. My mana is completely full now." Right after that, the two decide to do a little shopping and open the system store. The max-level rookie starts buying up tons of items. Alice assumes he's just wasting money on a bunch of useless junk. He corrects her, explaining that every single item has a purpose. Kang Jin announces that from here on out, things are about to get extremely hectic as they head into a cave. He lays out the plan to clear the entire first basement level by the end of the day. With that, he leaps straight into a crater. Alice freaks out, asking why he's jumping when they have no idea how deep it is. But our protagonist knows exactly how far the drop is. He's made this same leap over 100 times. He activates his reverse gravity skill just moments before impact to soften the landing. Alice is stunned. "You are reckless. I can't tell if it's skill or sheer luck that's keeping you alive." He then activates his level 4 fire skill to light a torch. The glow reveals he's in the right spot, surrounded by countless monsters. He knows that insects on this level are no threat to him because he's now standing before Anubis. Kang Jin mutters, "I recognize the desert jackal, the Egyptian god of death, Anubis." Anubis had planned to toy with the human for his own amusement before finishing him off. Seeing as he was the first to arrive, little did he know he was just speeding up his own demise. Our protagonist cuts him off. "I didn't come here to make small talk," Anubis scoffs. "You wish to fight a god head-on," Alice panics. "He's too dangerous. I'll hold him off while you get away." Kang Jin expected she would worry, but he just tells her, "Just stand back and watch me work." Walking toward the god, he's about to show the vampire exactly who she signed a bull contract with. Anubis's innate skill, the judgment of Anubis, flares to life. He asks, "Did you learn about me from this little vampire?" Then, the first question is pulled, and our protagonist has to respond. Anubis always uses this skill when challenged, asking 3 questions that must be answered. The secret to copying the skill is to first destroy the object that contains Anubis's consciousness, and then to make him completely lose his cool. If Anubis's patience breaks, it's possible to seize the power to ask the ultimate question. All Kang Jin has to do is answer Anubis's queries without giving a damn if the answers are correct. Anubis then asks, "How else could you have found this place, if not for the vampire?" After he gets an answer, the god asks, "Is your target the hive?" With the second question out, Kang Jin thinks, the hive could be sold for a ridiculous price. He answers the second question, and now only the last one is left. Anubis sneers. "Do you really think you can just leave after stepping into my domain?" Our hero retorts, "If you can't stop me, then you'd better hand over your items and your life." The third question is answered, and the conditions have been met. The judgment of Anubis takes full effect. All of his attributes are cut by 50%. Kang Jin's common and innate skills are locked for 1 minute. Anubis announces, "I will need an agent to execute my judgment." He then summons a champion of judgment. A gigantic praying mantis appears. The champion chosen to deliver Kang's sentence. Anubis gloats. "What do you think of my mightiest champion?" Kang Jin replies flatly, "It's terrifying." However, he then pulls out a miniature gramophone and says, "This will be enough to beat it. It plays 1 song at a time, and it's completely indestructible until the music stops." Anubis is baffled. Has he gone insane playing human music in front of my champion? Our hero just smirks. "Music is something to be savored, you old relic." This was the perfect song, the culmination of hundreds of thousands of experiments. The beats sync up perfectly with the giant praying mantis's attack patterns. Just like before, he was using the music, which made all its attacks completely useless. The god never would have imagined he'd use the rhythm of the music to dodge every move. He's absolutely sure that Kang Jin had this whole thing mapped out, and his penalty is just about to expire. In that instant, the minute is up, and the veteran has access to his regular and innate skills once more. He triggers the sword tomb skill. Summoning his weapon from thin air, he blitzes the mantis, slicing it up from every direction. The creature questions, "Did you really think that could take down a champion?" It then warns him, "I regenerate in mere seconds. You'll only win when my vitality is completely gone." Our hero just smirks back. "I don't have to kill you right now, but I can make you wish you were never created." He then unleashes such a flurry of cuts that the mantis starts to shriek from the sheer pain. The vampire watches all this unfold, realizing he's simply toying with the monster. She never knew he was this powerful. She suddenly believes that by sticking with Kang Jin Hyuk, she might finally get her own revenge. Our protagonist sends the whimpering mantis crashing to the ground. The Egyptian god commands it, "Keep fighting and get up, you are a champion, a proud warrior chosen by the gods." However, this final move is designed to obliterate the honor of a Seoul warrior that thought it could never be defeated. It's meant as a pure insult and a total provocation. He sits right on its head. This act makes the mantis warrior rise again, seething with an unbelievable hatred for our hero. Despite this, Anubis's champion is so thoroughly humiliated that it's defeated and ends its own life. This leaves the incomplete god in a state of total shock. Our protagonist levels up and a thought flashes through his mind. "I can actually do this." The magical castle of the Duke of Pelteris gives him the ability to learn ice magic. He's really feeling the perks of monopolizing the game. He had no idea he could get something like this at the intermediate levels. He acquires ice, fold, and immediately activates it. This magic is a complete surprise to Kang. The god recognizes that he's no ordinary human. He asks, "Are you trying to fight me with ice?" Our hero shoots back. "You can hardly defend yourself as it is. You're just a pest on the 42nd floor." Anubis, being nothing more than his senses, he demands, "So why did you even come here to challenge me?" Our hero just smirks. Honestly, just for the entertainment. The god can't believe the sheer nerve of being treated like a sideshow, and he is absolutely furious. As payback for this blatant disrespect, Anubis unleashes the ancient hive, a spell that summons an endless swarm of giant insects. The hive is under Anubis's control, who roars at the insects, "Destroy this insolent human." Thousands of wasps immediately begin swarming out of the hive. Kang just says, "This isn't going to be enough." He uses his fire and ice magic to obliterate the monsters. He then combines his fire abilities with Icefold and slams his fist into Bistui, the ground. The fusion works perfectly, and he creates the double A level skill. Daylight, an intensely bright light begins to pour out from the spot where our protagonist struck the ground. The moment this divine light hits the insects from the abyss, some are instantly vaporized while others are blinded. Daylight is an area of effect skill that compresses and then releases magical power, blinding any enemies caught in the blast. Anubis knows he has to change his strategy, so he activates the chosen target skill, and the hive spits out a powered-up entity. A furious, monstrous wasp emerges from inside, flying at incredible speed toward Kang. Our hero uses the Icefold skill to launch ice stakes that shred the wasp. The problem is, chosen targets don't get eliminated. They multiply instead. Because of this, our hero's attack was totally useless. Several more wasps burst out from the remains of the one he just destroyed. It doesn't matter how powerful a skill he uses, it will be completely ineffective against them. As the wasps swarm together, Kang Jin Hyuk cracks a smile and pulls out a pill. The giant pill is a special item that increases a target's size by up to 10 times. The moment he tosses it at a wasp, a notification announces the effects will trigger in 1 minute. The wasps start getting trampled by their own kind. Our protagonist leaps onto one of them. He grabs its antenna, using it like a joystick to fly around and attract the others. The Egyptian god grows annoyed with his own creations. He orders them, "Eliminate Kang now." They are creatures that don't get destroyed and just keep multiplying. Such an overpowered effect would drive any normal enemy to despair. The wasps begin attacking each other in their attempts to hit our hero. The chaos became almost impossible to follow under these ridiculous conditions. While they were all crammed together, he uses the unknown cube to trap them. He also uses sticky glue, spider, webs, and a few other items. The 4 items combine, reinforcing the unknown cube and sealing the creatures inside. By identifying these patterns through repetition and calmly analyzing every detail, he's developed the skill to completely turn the tables. Our protagonist then unleashes his level 5 fire ability inside the unknown cube. The wasps and the hive are engulfed in flames within the prison he made. At that very second, the effects of the giant pill are activated. The wasps inside the cube begin to expand, crushing one another. Soon, the wasps are all wiped out and a huge pile of giant pills are dropped inside the cube. To take on a boss that commands an entire army, having as many giant pills as you can is the key. After all, a monster that multiplies non-stop also multiplies the experience points and item drops. It's a perfect copy machine. Anubis is completely shocked by what just transpired. Anubis realizes that Kang had these items prepared for a specific combo, knew exactly how to handle the hive, and had set a perfect trap. The god is now certain that the young man had been planning this entire thing from the very beginning, which infuriates him to no end. Anubis destroys the hive himself. Our protagonist then remarks that this was getting fun. Anubis is utterly enraged that a mere human has disrespected and humiliated him so thoroughly. He declares, "You had better climb the Tower of Trials and survive." Kang replies, "I was already planning to do that, even without you gods screaming at me about it." Anubis warns that when that day comes, he will pass a judgment on Kang for his disrespect. Immediately after he says this, the Egyptian god's vessel is destroyed. Our hero therefore meets the conditions and learns Anubis's judgment, an overrank skill. This ability lets him ask the target 3 questions, which reduces their stats by 50%. It can only be used against a single target 1 time. And if this rule is broken, the wrath of the gods will descend upon him. The other Egyptian gods, in turn, show an interest in Kang's existence and express their hostility. Meanwhile, our protagonist is furious with the gods. The vampire asks him, "What happened?" He explains that he won, and he'd hit level 19, a personal best for speed in this zone. Unsure what to expect next, he figures his best bet is to spread his stat points evenly. Just then, a video call pops up. He's shocked to see who it is. Chan Yusung demands, "Where are you? You got a spot in mind." But our hero stays silent. Chan cuts to the chase, saying he has an offer. In just 24 hours, the Awakened Association is set to kick off a massive martial arts tournament. It's for A rankers and above. And of course, Yusung will be there. Kang can't help but think it's weird for the association to host a tournament while they're still stuck on the third floor boss. Turns out, Cheon wants him to enter so they can finally have their showdown and settle the score once and for all. Initially, Kang isn't interested. Cheon doesn't have any skills worth copying. But then, he changes his tune, saying he won't turn down the offer because Cheon is holding a ticket to the black market. Now that gets Kang Jin Hyuk's attention. Cheon explains that this isn't like the regular coin market players use. It's more like an exclusive, invite-only auction house where the currency is real cash. These secret markets are popping up all over. The Tower of Trials. They sell priceless items that could be key to beating the third floor boss. And because it's a playground for the super rich, Kang knows he could get his hands on some top-tier gear. Shortly after, his combat video goes viral, becoming the highlight of the week. On this brand new, unknown channel, the only upload shows the masked man fighting alongside Teresa. The footage of the demon was conveniently edited out, so the guilds dodged any public backlash. He has no intention of making enemies of the guilds anyway, and the comment section is flooded with support, begging him to take down the boss. Viewers are impressed by his character and start to wonder if he might actually be the one to clear the third floor with ease. Of course, some people are demanding a face reveal, which he totally expected. He's become a famous player wrapped in an enigma, and everyone is dying to know more. The hype exploded when he boldly declared right in front of all the guilds that he would challenge the boss by himself. That video has now racked up an insane 50 million views. And keep in mind, viewers can only watch it once per day. Since he earns 100 coins for every 10,000 views, he's set to make 50,000 coins, even after the platform takes its cut. The fee is steep, but it's still a massive payday for him. Meanwhile, Kang Jin Hyuk is watching the tournament, wondering when it'll be over already. He's getting bored. This whole thing features 24 competitors, every single one of them a player with a AA rank or higher. The big guilds and Top Awakened put this event together mostly to quiet down public criticism. It's a show of force meant to prove that their players are both powerful and dependable. While it's a huge public spectacle, the audience won't get to see the full extent of any player's true power. Still, maybe it's not a bad way to ease some of the tension in the air. In any case, our protagonist took Cheon Yusung up on his invitation for the black market ticket. He pointed out, however, that since he wasn't AA rank or higher, he couldn't actually compete. That's when his rival reveals a key rule: the champion gets two options. The first is to claim a divine relic from the National Museum. The second choice allows the winner to handpick a player who didn't compete to fight against them in a special match. And that's Cheon's whole plan: win the tournament, nominate our hero, and finally crush him in front of the entire world. Back in the arena, two players are squaring off, clearly pulling their punches to avoid any serious injuries. Out of nowhere, an Anubis is summoned, catching the two combatants completely off guard. They're effortlessly tossed aside and taken down by a powerful two-man team. Members of the association take note of their strength, thinking that this display will definitely make the public feel a lot more secure. But Hunjio, the S-rank CEO of the Black Cloud Guild, isn't impressed. He's only watching one person in the entire arena. He finds the swordsman's ironclad control and his incredible strategic awareness just incredible. His guild already approached the guy with an offer to join them, but he actually turned them down. He's the first person to ever say no to the guild, showing a level of guts no one else has. Hong Deokpyo admits that the swordsman is so infuriating he can barely stand to look at him. Young Do-yun, a AAA ranker from the Black Cloud Guild, believes that very same swordsman could have brought Chon to his knees. The CEO just tells him to stop gossiping about fights and get ready for his upcoming interview. Do-yun boasts confidently that he's a natural on camera and that his raw talent will get him to S rank within 3 years. He argues that once the world finds out they've recruited a prodigy like him, the guild's reputation will skyrocket. Meanwhile, back in the ring, the free-for-all continues, with fighters clashing against the summoned Anubis. But then, something shifts, and suddenly, players start dropping like flies. Even the old summoner and his partner are swiftly overwhelmed. In a flash, the swordsman, Cheon Yusung, cuts down everyone else in a single, fluid motion, claiming the title of champion. The press is stunned that a victor was decided so quickly. Cheon Yusung immediately refuses the Divine Relic prize. Instead, he declares he's choosing his second option, an opponent from outside the tournament. The Black Cloud CEO assumes he's going to call out another guildmaster. But then, Cheon Yu-sung points his blade straight into the stands, demanding that a certain man come down and face him. Young Di-yoon, completely misreading the situation, thinks he's the one being challenged. Deokbyo yanks the kid back down, explaining that he wasn't the one being called out. After all, Cheon Yu-sung's sword is aimed much higher up in the stands. The champion then shouts for the man to show himself and quit playing dumb. Young, still baffled, mutters that there's no one in the entire stadium more worthy of a challenge than him or perhaps Hong Deokbyo. Just then, our protagonist rises from his seat and says, "You really have a talent for getting on my nerves." At that moment, the champion lowers his sword, confirming this is exactly who he was looking for. Immediately, the awakened in the crowd scramble to pull up this mystery man's data. They quickly find out he's Kang Jin Hyuk, an F-rank player. A fight against a AAA ranker like Jung would have been a massive popularity boost for anyone. Yet, Chon Young specifically chose an F-ranker, Hong. Realizes Cheon has nothing to gain from this. He figures the guy must get some sick pleasure out of bullying the weak. In response, Kang demands a promise from his opponent. He declares that this better be the last time he gets challenged, because some people need to learn when to quit. Jung finds Kang's arrogance shocking, as if he could actually win against him. The key, brand new champion, but our hero can see it clear as day. Yu-sung has gotten much stronger, a sign of intense training. Cheon, however, is deeply insulted by this. He's been watching closely. After all, the guy's entire training regimen was designed to take down Kang Jin. Jung knows if he wants that black market pass, he can't hold anything back. And just like that, he unleashes his Soul Snatcher sword skill. He doesn't hesitate, immediately chaining it into the second strike of the art, the Soul Snatcher Flame. The moment our hero sees those signature blue flames, a wave of melancholy washes over him. He knows this means they're destined to clash again, making up his mind to go all out. He curses his persistent opponent. He then unleashes his own fire skill, cranking it to the max. A sudden, massive explosion tears through a nearby building as their epic fight escapes the confines of the arena, wreaking havoc everywhere. Chon, beaten and bruised, looks at our protagonist in awe. "Just how many skills do you even have?" he asks. A moment later, his body gives out completely. Utterly defeated, he collapses to the ground, out cold. Our hero announces he'll be putting the black market invitation to great use, as he plucks it right out of his fallen rival's pocket. Meanwhile, the spectators are buzzing about some kind of giant ice missile they saw, saying it completely obliterated the ceiling with a brilliant flash of light. Everyone thinks it's unbelievably weird, especially since Kang is just an F-rank. A short while later, our hero runs into an old acquaintance. The two of them haven't crossed paths since their confrontation back at the National Museum of Korea. They both admit that their last meeting was pretty intense, but they decide to let bygones be bygones, agreeing there's no reason to be enemies now. As a gesture of goodwill, Kong asks him for Lee Yuri's number. He phrases it like a request, saying, "You can say no if you want, but only if you're prepared for what comes next." Our protagonist, Kang Jin Hyuk, sees right through this flimsy excuse for a favor. It's a blatant threat, plain and simple. Just then, a figure suddenly launches himself from the crowd, shocking everyone in the arena. The stranger lands gracefully right in front of our hero. He seems surprised that Kang, a mere F-ranker, actually won. Kang Jin Hyuk instantly fires up his level 3 Eye of Truth, getting a clear look at Young Do-yoon's real status. Young Do-yoon breaks the silence. "I have to admit, I didn't see an event like this playing out." At that moment, Kong's system alerts him to the conditions for skill copying. He has to figure out his target's real motive. If he succeeds, he can copy the giant's grip skill. Our hero immediately gets a bad feeling. It's obvious Young Doon came here with a specific plan. He can't help but wonder, how on earth does my system know what someone is planning? This has to be more than just some basic program. The AAA ranker tries to reassure him, though, saying, "Relax, I'm not here for a fight. Starting today, we're going to be colleagues in the same line of work." He holds out a hand toward our hero and adds, "I'll be taking care of you from now on." The moment those words are spoken, Kang Jin Hyuk fires up his Eye of Truth skill once more, instantly. He sees that everything Jung Do-yoon just said was a complete fabrication. Beneath that fake, friendly smile, Kang can sense a raging storm of jealousy and anger. And just as if on cue, a crowd of reporters is already assembled, as if they knew this was about to happen. Jung's outstretched hand isn't an invitation for a handshake. It's a trap designed to activate his unique skill, the power of a giant. To make matters worse, the representative from the Black Cloud Guild is watching with a hungry look on his face. Their plan is to publicly humiliate the rookie who just took down the tournament's champion, right in front of this massive audience. It's a cheap and obvious ploy. Jung's goal is to steal the spotlight and make it all about him. But by seeing through Jung Do-yoon's real motive, the condition for the skill copy has been fulfilled. In that very instant, our hero acquires the giant's grip skill for himself. This particular skill provides a massive boost to his grip strength. Now, Kang can easily handle items up to 10 times his body weight. Back when the tower was just a game, there was never a chance to copy skills because there were hardly any other players around. But now that this is all real, the abilities that others worked so hard to obtain can be swiped and added to our hero's collection. Kang plays along, acting like he's actually interested in joining Jung. He asks if the handshake is an official offer from Jung's guild. Jung confirms it is. He explains that since Kang isn't with any guild right now, he could join theirs and get the star treatment. Jin Hyuk then counters, "Does that mean I'll get a massive signing bonus for joining?" Do-yoon scoffs, saying of course he will. Just tell us what you want and consider it done. But before shaking his hand, our hero has one last question. He looks him dead in the eye and asks, "Did you honestly believe you could beat me in a contest of raw strength?" Jung just smirks. "Isn't it obvious?" And then activates his level 5 giant's grip. Jung lets out a cruel laugh as he starts crushing our hero's hand, completely convinced he's already won. But to his shock, our protagonist doesn't even flinch. That's when Kang triggers Anubis's judgment, the AAA ranker. Jung is confused why the guy isn't reacting at all. Right before he's forced to his knees in agony, Jin Hyuk's hand begins to crackle with purple lightning. "You're putting up quite a fight," Jin Hyuk remarks coolly. He continues, "You seem really sure of your own power, but for a big guy, you're making a big scene over a little pain." With that, our hero squeezes Jung's hand even tighter. Jung screams out in pain, begging him, "Stop, that's a dirty trick." In response, our hero slams a fist right into his gut. The sheer force of the blow sends the guy flying across the arena. Kang scoffs, "Us colleagues, never. How dare you even pretend you could be my friend?" Just then, another figure drops down onto the battlefield. Our protagonist immediately activates his Eye of Truth ability. It's the CEO of the Black Cloud Guild, and he looks absolutely furious. He declares that he put in a lot of effort to set this moment up. Our hero quickly analyzes his stats, seeing that he's a level 34 berserker. He also gets a new copy condition to get the Blood Demon's IQ ability. He needs to completely shatter Hong's pride. Kang says he gets why he's mad and suggests they just call it quits. This only enrages Hong more, seeing the boy's apparent cowardice after all that's happened, but Kang clarifies, "The real reason is I'd rather not take out a guild master today." The comment leaves Hong Deokpyo seeing red. He immediately activates the Blood Demon's IQ ability as Hong charges up an attack. The boy asks, "Are you for real?" Our max level rookie then unleashes his level 2 daylight ability. Hong leaps high into the air, and Kang fires a blinding beam of light right at him, dazzling everyone watching. In that flash, Kang summons his purple dagger. The two of them meet in a powerful clash of strength. The gap attribute kicks in. Kang Jin pours 99 points into it, shrinking the massive 33-level gap between them. The CEO is stunned. He never imagined Kang could actually resist his blood demon ability. Kang meets him head-on, the very same Hong who once raided the Colossus boss on the second floor. With glowing red eyes and a demonic look on his face, Hong growls at the boy, "Don't you dare make me laugh!" But just then, someone else activates an arbitration ability, freezing Hong completely in midair. Completely trapped by a paralyzing energy, with everyone's eyes on them, Kang thought Hong really should be putting on a better show at the tournament. Just then, Han Sang-jin, the president of the association, showed up and broke up their fight. Our hero immediately recognized him as the man in charge of all of Korea's Awakened. President Han Sanjin of the Awakened Association stood there with a stone-cold expression. Han complained, "You got here just in time. This guy was laying into one of my guild's players," Han retorted. "Injuries happen. This is a combat tournament, not a variety show." He then turned to our hero and said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Player Kang." Introducing himself as the president of the Awakened, Han was straight with our protagonist, admitting that he had no idea who he was until just 20 minutes ago. But then Han got a frantic call from the department managing the martial arts tournament. The caller told him to get there right away because something absolutely insane was happening. Naturally, Han looked into Kang's test results. He quickly saw that Kang had completely overwhelmed his examiner. He then formally congratulated Kang Jin Hyuk for becoming Korea's 16th S-ranker. The association took full blame for the error in their analysis and offered a sincere apology. As soon as the news broke, every reporter and media crew in the place went into a frenzy over the new S-ranker. They all swarmed him for an interview, desperate for a scoop on this incredible development. In their rush, they trampled right over the unconscious body of Young. The AA ranker, Hong, was furious. The fighting tournament was supposed to be the Black Cloud Guild's time to shine, but they were being totally sidelined. Fed up, he decided he had to do something to flip the script right then and there. "Wait a minute," he yelled, grabbing a reporter's arm. "My guild is going to be the one to defeat the third-floor boss." The reporter just shook him off, telling Hong to call him later. Kang Jin was now the center of the universe, mobbed by interviewers from all sides. By utterly shattering Hong Deokpyo's pride, the conditions for copying had been fulfilled, and just like that, he learned the incredibly powerful Blood Demon Chi skill. Not long after, he was all over the news. Recognized as Korea's 16th S-rank Awakened, he noticed the reactions to his new status were mixed, some positive, others not so much. When the head of the Awakened found out he was going to Las Vegas, a private jet was immediately arranged for him. Kang was beginning to understand that high-ranking Awakened lived in a completely different world, which is why everyone craved that kind of power. Our max-level rookie kicked back in first class on the flight to Las Vegas. He was digging into some seriously expensive cuisine when the vampire Alice suddenly gave him a warning. She urged him to look at a man seated in front of them, saying the man gave off a strange and disgusting aura. When she added that she had no desire to taste his blood, Alice made it clear he was far from an ordinary human. Our protagonist was instantly on guard. Something was seriously wrong with this guy. After all, for Alice to be repulsed by someone's blood, there had to be something truly twisted about the blonde man. Kang activated his level 3 Eyes of Truth and saw that the man was a level 27 necromancer. The copy conditions required achieving maximum affinity and joining the Demonic Human Association. He was stunned to find out this man was a demonic human. Jin Hyuk couldn't fathom how he could pretend to be human with such a calm look on his face. The demonic human walked past and recognized him, commenting, "You're the one who just became an S-rank." Kang knew it was no accident that this man was on the same flight. He realized that it wasn't just the major guilds who were now interested in him. At that moment, our protagonist casually replied, "I was just reevaluated as an S-rank a little while ago." The man nodded, saying he'd seen the tournament broadcast. He introduced himself as Alex Judro and offered Kang his business card. "Our meeting must be fate," Alex said smoothly, inviting Kang for a drink. Our veteran hero, however, decided to play along with his little act. He agreed to have a drink with the demonic human. Alex started spinning all sorts of tales while pouring out some ridiculously expensive brandy. He told stories about his cosmetics business and the hard times he fell on when the tower first appeared. Kang wondered if Alex, who was trying so hard to size him up, had any clue that Kang had already seen his true identity. Then, Alex admitted the real reason he came to Korea wasn't just for cosmetics. It was to expand his businesses related to the Awakened. "We're looking to enter the field, given the recent changes, but there's a slight hiccup." He then started talking about the masked player in the tower. Our protagonist feigned ignorance, saying, "Oh, I saw him on the news declaring he'd beat the third-floor boss alone." Alex replied, "I was planning to join the third-floor raid, but he's put me in a very awkward position. He says it's to protect his friends, but really, he just doesn't want to be bothered by going with a team." Our hero casually remarked, "You sound like you know him personally." Alex confirmed, "I do. Kang Jin Hyuk found it impressive how effortlessly Alex could lie. Then, Alex made his pitch he wanted Kang to join them to take on the third-floor boss. Claiming he'd be a massive help, Jin pretended he didn't understand the offer, since the unknown player had already claimed the raid for himself. Alex explained, as an S rank, he has the right to act on his own. No one can stop him. It's gotten to the point where the major guilds are promising the masked player a private raid. Our protagonists knew this was their angle, since they were going to restrict access to the boss room. This was their only way in. Jin pushed back. Isn't that asking too much? I just made S rank. I'd have to go up against the guilds. Alex just smiled. I'm a businessman. The more complicated the request, the bigger the reward. He then revealed the Potion of Legends. It was an elixir that could cure any illness and even regenerate a destroyed heart. This definitely got our protagonist's attention. He couldn't help but wonder what the demonic human association had to do to get something so impossibly rare. Holding the item, Kang knew it was an offer anyone would be tempted by. Alex presented the potion as an advance payment if Kang would sign the contract. In that instant, Kang activated his level 6 skill, Contract of the Dead. Judro pressed him. An opportunity like this is rare. It looks like a simple contract. However, if you break the terms, you'll be eliminated on the spot. Kang refused to sign. He used the excuse that he was overly cautious and didn't want to make the guilds his enemies. Alex scoffed. If even this isn't enough to tempt him, then I give up on the kid. They agreed to forget the deal. That hinged on the elixir. However, even though our protagonist is cautious, he's also the greedy sort who always takes everything he wants for himself. This just pisses off Alex, who has no idea what the kid is planning. All of a sudden, the entire plane starts shaking like crazy. Alex is baffled as to why Kang is unleashing so much mana. He asks, what, is he trying to bring the whole plane down? An announcement crackles over the intercom for everyone in the cabin. The aircraft is hitting some sudden turbulence. All passengers are instructed to get back to their seats and buckle up immediately. Kang figures he should head back to his seat. Alex asks if he knew all along about the group he was mixed up with. Jin confirms that he knew everything. Judro fires back a warning. Don't push them too far, or you'll pay dearly for it. Jin retorts. That's a load of crap. They're on the unknown side. Even after being totally humiliated at the Olympus meeting, Alex presses on. How could you possibly know that? Are you close to the unknown or something? Right after, Alex starts to think Jin might just be bluffing. After all, the major guilds could have easily shared that information, especially since he just hit S rank. Our hero offers to share what he knows, but only if the guy learns how to act right. He hopes they'll meet again, someday. As the plane touches down, they find themselves in Las Vegas, a city filled with massive casinos and blinding neon lights. The vampire asks, this is a human city, I suppose it's not so bad. Our hero let her out as a little reward for sniffing out the demonic human. The only problem is, his current mana pool keeps her on a 150-centimeter leash. He decides to use the world's memory to fuse two of his skills, Truth Eye and Demon Blood IQ. The fusion works perfectly, granting him the SSS rank skill, Eye of Gluttony. It's a massively upgraded version of Truth Eye, allowing him to use shared vision and even read minds. The downside is the Bangipaiti. Demon Blood aspect means there's a higher chance of his personality becoming twisted if he overuses it. His plan is to eventually merge Truth Eye with a more stable, spirit-type skill later on. But for now, he had no choice. He needed to use this power urgently. His friend Alice asks, are we hitting a casino? He tells her they're headed somewhere else. He can't just use his magical abilities in any old casino. And even though he could just forcibly take their money since it's for the auction, ripping off regular working folk is a line our protagonist refuses to cross. Alice asks, so where are we going? Our hero simply says that it's a place beyond comparison, which gets the girl all excited. They show up at the Tortuga betting house. The vampire complains that she liked the other building better. Kang Jin tells her, this place isn't for fun and games. Just then, someone inside starts screaming their head off. I saw it. I saw someone use magic with my own 2 eyes. A man in a suit smacks him. Then he says, nobody was doing tricks. That guy used several abilities. The man insists, in this joint, only idiots get played. Our protagonist can't help but agree. Alice thinks this place looks like a lot of fun. She asks what makes it different from the others. Our hero explains, "This is a casino where using magic is totally fair game." He tells her to order anything she wants to drink and put it on his tab. Our protagonist then downs a shot. He leaves her at the bar while he goes to take care of business. He declares he's about to win some foreign currency and steps into the main casino floor. He activates his Source Seal skill at level 3. For the next 10 minutes, this ability makes sure a chosen object can't be affected by anyone else's powers. However, the user's own abilities can still influence it. The dealer at the betting house is a guy named Pedro. He's the one watching the hands, and he's already lost over 500,000 to this Asian kid, Kang Jin Hyuk. He's furious and knows he can't afford to lose anymore. Pedro decides to end this right now, no matter what it takes. He raises the bet to settle everything in this one round. The max-level rookie goes all in, pushing his entire 5 million coins to the center. He asks, "You sure about that?" "That's a lot of cash." This sends a shockwave through the room. Pedro simply states that the house is always extremely confident. Kang then asks which guild runs this place. Pedro explains that it's the scavenger guild that invests in this operation. Pedro finds it suspicious. The kid was silent the whole time and now he's suddenly asking questions, almost like he's reading his mind. The protagonist asks, "Is there a problem with me asking?" Pedro quickly replies, "No problem at all. I can answer any questions you have about it." He starts to wonder if the kid has some kind of mind-reading ability. Then, the man flips the cards over to reveal the outcome of the hand. Pedro uses his skill, strange gestures, thinking that if he just swaps the cards as he turns them over, he won't get caught doing anything wrong. But even after using his ability to switch the cards, there's still the exact same pair of jacks. He's in disbelief, wondering what went wrong since he was sure he'd swap the cards. Our protagonist, on the other hand, lets out a sigh of relief, having just barely won with his pair of kings. He had used his incredibly useful, newly minted skill, Eye of Gluttony, to read Pedro's thoughts. At that moment, Kang Jin Hyuk begins to sweep all the chips off the table. But before he can, someone steps in, stopping him cold. A man in a suit says, "We don't know what kind of skill you just pulled, but you're coming with us." Another man chimes in, "Anyone who takes this much from us is no longer considered a customer." The goons in suits try to grab him and drag him to a back room. However, one of the huge guys is sent flying from a single, powerful blow. Our hero remembers what he heard that guy outside say before he came in. "Only idiots get fooled in this place." He thinks this with a look of pure determination, ready for a fight. One man starts firing his gun at our protagonist, who dodges the bullets effortlessly. He then rushes the man in the suit, delivering a strike that slams him into the floor and takes him out of the fight. Meanwhile, Alice is just chilling at the bar. The other customers are getting hyped up watching the brawl unfold. Alice asks about the names of some drinks and orders a cocktail, called the Fire Kiss. It's a drink meant to symbolize the passion between lovers, an idea the vampire finds utterly ridiculous. At that moment, she takes a sip, completely oblivious to the absolute chaos breaking out right behind her. The guild executives are estimated to show up in 30 minutes. They can feel that something is seriously wrong. No matter how lawless this place is, no one has ever caused this much destruction on their own like Kang, who is currently tearing through their men. An associate runs up with grave news and shows the section chief a video. The clip playing on the phone reveals that Kang Jin was just recently announced as an S-rank hunter in South Korea. The chief is stunned. After all, there are only 20 S-ranks in the entire United States, and he's never even laid eyes on one. He realizes that if Kang wanted to, he could demolish the whole casino in the blink of an eye. That's just how powerful he is. Suddenly, a voice commands everyone to stop fighting. The chief rushes forward, apologizing profusely for his men's disrespect, for his awful manners, and for failing to recognize who Kang really was. He then hits his knees, yanks off his suit jacket, and starts desperately begging for forgiveness. Kang is just baffled by the sudden groveling and asks if his entire attitude flipped just because he found out about his rank. The trembling chief stammers, "That's not what I meant at all." Our hero fires back. "So, does this dump make a habit of trying to swindle people?" He then lays down the law, declaring he's taking every cent he won fair and square. and he's also tacking on $10 million as compensation for his troubles. He then threatens, or you can just shut this place down for good if you don't. Like my terms. He then flashes his bank account, which is now packing a cool $10 million, plenty of cash to buy the items he needs. In any case, something strange is heading toward Kang's location. A moment later, a suspicious car pulls up and the driver asks, "Are you client number 117? I'm taking you to the auction house." Our protagonist, invitation in hand, gets into the vehicle destined for the black market auction. The windows are completely blacked out, leaving him blind to his surroundings. Since the auction house is a secret location, they eventually arrive at a grand mansion, and he's buzzing with anticipation for what's inside. The man who drove the car simply tells him to enjoy his stay as he steps out. Alice then asks, "You didn't forget your promise, did you?" He finds a secluded spot where no one can see them. She materializes from the ring, taking a deep breath of the air, which feels far superior here, a place truly fit for a noble. The vampire asks if he's actually going to participate in the auction. Jin replies, "Yeah, but we need to keep a low profile. This venue is way too classy, and we're already drawing attention." Meanwhile, the guests are murmuring that even though they come every year, the tension today is off the charts. That's because incredibly rare tower items, like an ichthyosaur's heart, are actually up for sale at this year's event. It turns out the tower's recent mana wave has unearthed all sorts of ancient treasures. Consequently, they're all eager to see the artifacts in person, even if they have no intention of buying anything. Suddenly, Alice recoils from a strong, nauseating smell. At that very moment, the man wielding a black staff approaches them and says, "It is a pleasure to meet you." He introduces himself as Julius Cedric and claims to be Alex Judro's master. Jin instantly recognizes the name. This was the guy who brutally punished Alex Judro for stealing the elixir and failing his mission. Our protagonist immediately activates his eyes of gluttony. A quick scan reveals Julius is level 30 with unbelievably powerful stats. He starts thinking about how to get a unique skill from him, one that has amazing synergy with the Necromancer class. It's a highly coveted power that allows for the control of summons with barely any mana. The catch, the copy condition, is to complete Cedric's black magic course with an A+ grade. Apparently, Cedric is furious with his students for botching way too many of their assignments. Our protagonist thinks this condition is completely absurd, feeling like the system is going absolutely insane. So, he decides to provoke the Necromancer, mentioning that he acquired something very valuable from his disciple during their last encounter. Julius seems intrigued by this and immediately demands to know more about this unknown item, saying it's vital to him. Jin realizes the old man is cutting straight to the chase and says, "This isn't the right place to talk." But before Jin can even move, the old man steps directly into his path. Cedric insists, "Unfortunately, there won't be another opportunity. We have to sort this out right now." Our protagonist, however, just shoves Cedric's staff out of his way, saying, "That's not my problem." He then walks right past the old man, which infuriates Alex Judro, who sees this as a massive sign of disrespect toward his master. The old man, however, stays calm, says there are other ways to handle this, and stops his disciple from doing anything. Reckless, Alice finds them incredibly annoying and asks, "Can I just take care of them?" But Kang Jin Hyuk doesn't want any trouble and reminds her that he's just here to buy some useful things at the auction. An announcement for auction number 175 sounds, and they decide to take their seats. The first item is a meteorite that fell in Arizona, which is radiating powerful mana. The auctioneer starts the bidding at $100,000, and offers start pouring in from the crowd. Currently, there isn't a single known craftsman who can work with meteoric iron. Since nobody knows what to do with it, it's the perfect chance to buy it on the cheap. Because of this, our protagonist bids $300,000. It looks like he's about to steal the meteorite for a price far lower than its actual value. But just as our hero starts to celebrate, a bid for $1 million echoes through the hall. The offer, coming from the demonic humans, sends a shockwave through the auction. Next up, the bidding for a sealed psychiatric catalog opens at $100,000. Kang Jin Hyuk once again throws in an offer of $300,000, and just like before, Julius Cedric jumps in, hiking the bid to $1 million in an instant. The item is sold to Cedric for a cool million. Our protagonist already saw this coming. He knew the demonic human would try to buy out every single thing he wanted. He understands this is going to be a direct battle of wills to get these items. The next artifact, discovered in South America and belonging to the Mayan civilization, is presented, without even waiting for the description. Our hero bids 500,000, clearly playing some kind of angle. The demonic human bids 1 million, and our protagonist counters by adding another 500,000. But then Julius steps in, dropping a massive $3 million bid for the item. The auctioneer, stunned by the $3 million offer, asks if there are any other bids. Our veteran doesn't say a word, and the item sells to Julius for $3 million. Their bidding war escalates, with items selling for $2 million and $3 million to each of them in turn. Several more items are snapped up for $5 million by the demonic human. The next item is presented as an interesting piece, said to be from the era when Columbus discovered a new continent. Alex asks his master, "Why don't you let him have just one?" His master, visibly annoyed, replies that Alex won't get what he wants that easily. "Even if I take some losses, I will win every single item Kang wants to buy." The demonic human's plan is to trade these items for information on the unknown. The next item is announced as something for true collectors, revealed to be the world's very first chessboard. Most people in the crowd think it's useless, wondering what you'd even do with a board that has no pieces. Alice watches as our protagonist opens with a bid of $50,000. The hooded man then raises the offer to $100,000. Instantly, our protagonist fires back with $1 million. Cedric then offers $8 million, absolutely screaming in frustration. What could possibly be so special about this item to make it worth $8 million? Our hero, completely unfazed, calmly raises the stakes to $10 million. At this point, the sinister old man just smiles and throws out a bid of $30 million. He mocks. "It looks like $10 million is all you've got, Kang, but I can tell you desperately want this chessboard. If you really want it, you'll have to get on your knees and beg. Nobody is outbidding $30 million. Kang is stunned that even after being forced to spend so much, the man still has that kind of money to throw around. Realizing Julius has far deeper pockets, Kang knows he needs a different approach. The 56th auction item is declared sold to the old man for $30 million. But just before the auctioneer can bang the gavel, Alice rises to her feet and offers a staggering $100 million for the board. Julius Cedric is completely floored. Seeing someone bid that much for a simple chessboard, he can't figure out what's wrong with this person, who's already blown over $700 million on absolute junk. To make sure this wasn't all for nothing, he pushes his bid to $110 million. But the vampire stuns the entire room by countering with $200 million for the board. Now the old man is livid, refusing to believe she could possibly have $200 million to throw away. The auction master steps in, demanding the young woman prove she has the funds. Without a word, she tears open a portal, and a flood of gold coins pours out. She figures that should be proof enough. Everyone is in awe at the sheer volume of gold she commands. The crown sitting atop the pile alone is worth more than $500 million, leaving the old man speechless. He never imagined the girl was anything but a normal human. But the most terrifying discovery is that this incredible being acts like Kang Jin's subordinate. It seems an enemy far more troublesome than he ever imagined has just entered the picture. Julius concedes his plan is ruined and announces they'll have to switch to Plan B. Alex can barely hide his glee. He'd been waiting for the old man to say exactly that. Kang and Alice receive congratulations for securing the first chessboard, which is promptly brought to her. She offers her sincere thanks, admitting she feels the whole thing was a bit over the top. The vampire just shrugs. "It's no big deal. My vault was getting cramped anyway, and I couldn't let anyone look down on my contractor." Our hero is touched, realizing the girl can actually be quite eloquent. Just then, a massive explosion rips through the building, sending everyone into a panic. Moments later, the ceiling starts to give way, and the crowd frantically scrambles to get out before being crushed. In a total frenzy, people surge toward the exit, trying to escape the chaos. This is when Alex Judro begins to slaughter them, planning to use their bodies as fuel. As the enemy fires up the mana furnace, people clutch their heads, feeling like they're about to explode. They cry out for someone, anyone, to save them, and our protagonist is completely sickened by the carnage. Both of these twisted monsters have gone way too far. He seethes, his anger boiling over. Souls begin to rip free from the bodies of the people across the room. A horrifying creature materializes, and it's the thing that's devouring their souls. Our protagonist knows instantly that this is the handiwork of that disgusting necromancer. Alex scoffs at the comment, calling his creations adorable. He was fully expecting the S-rank hunters to be able to withstand this magic. He vividly recalls the beatdown he got on the plane, and the kill order on Kang has already been sent down. Our hero slowly floats into the air, his body blazing with mana. He declares, "I'm done holding back." Immediately, monsters charge him, but he effortlessly bats them aside with his immense power. Alex notes that he's surprisingly quick. He then asks, "So where did the little vampire run off to?" Our protagonist replies, "She can't stand filth like you, so she left." The truth is, he dismissed her physical form because he needed to unleash his own magic. The mana furnace is inflicting constant damage, so a prolonged battle would be a disaster. Just then, the last two monsters rush Kang Jin Hyuk. He decides to finish this as fast as possible and lunges at the creatures. He unleashes his sword graveyard ability, using it to slice and dice the monsters. The attack is devastatingly effective. They're torn to ribbons by his powerful blade and skill, Alex remarks. "Well, that was a surprise. I couldn't even follow your movements." Alex then begins weaving a magic circle. "I already have all the materials I need right here," he smirks, adding, "Nothing's easier than this, using sacrificed souls." Our protagonist sees Alex's plan is to simply wear him down. Alex is absorbing the life force of the dead, continually raising more corpses, to drain Kang's mana. This is the classic necromancer battle strategy. Alex Judro flashes him a sadistic grin. Our hero weaves through the monster's attacks, trying to push forward. Kang taunts him. "Is this really all you've got?" he proclaims. "I'll incinerate every last one of these things before you can raise them again." He uses his daylight ability, infusing his blade with holy power and pointing it at the creatures. An incredibly brilliant light bursts from his sword. The necromancer grows wary of this skill, but he's not worried. He'd already seen everything. He scouted all of Kang's abilities during the party. All he has to do is split the summons apart and strike him before the light can fully converge, to his shock. However, the monsters are completely frozen in place. He realizes their feet are encased in ice. Jin Hyuk had used his ice magic. It becomes clear as the tips of their toes are visibly frozen solid. The blinding light had completely hidden him, casting the ice ability. As he stands there in utter disbelief, having completely missed the trap, another blinding flash erupts. Our protagonist tells him, "Now go to hell." A powerful beam of light shoots directly at the necromancer. The divine blast tears through the entire mansion. Alex lies broken on the floor, unable to process what just happened. Every single one of his monsters was wiped out by Kang. Our hero appears right beside him. He sneers at Alex for being so sentimental about corpses. The necromancer makes a last-ditch effort to attack. He hurls debris at our hero, who casually deflects it all. Defeated, Alex turns and runs. He can't believe he lost this fight, especially when he had every advantage. As he scrambles to get back to his master, he's struck hard from behind. A sword pierces straight through his chest, sending Alex crashing to the ground. It was a textbook weapon throw. After all the chaos he caused, Kang finds it pathetic that Judro would try to run away. He then announces that he's going to show Alex exactly how he'll be dealt with. He explains, "For the next 30 minutes, your lungs are going to fill with your own blood. You'll slowly choke to death." He casually mentions this is the second most painful way to go, right after being burned alive. Suffocation is a close second. Of course, that could all change if Alex starts talking. Kang dangles an elixir in front of Alex, a member of the demonic society. A desperate spark of life ignites in Alex's eyes, but he's completely silenced. His throat is clogged with tomato sauce. He tries to scrawl a message on the floor with his own blood, but our protagonist mocks him, saying, "Well, since you're refusing to talk, I guess you don't have many options." With that, Kang crushes Alex's hand under his boot. "Forget the elixir," he sneers. "I was never actually interested in anything you had to say." He then tosses back the card bearing Alex's name. "I hope this is the most excruciating end imaginable for you." As Kang walks away from the scene, a peculiar mineral catches his eye. It was an ore crafted by Michelangelo. and it instantly grabs his focus. He realizes that, just like the dragon's heart, this mineral is one of the key ingredients that can be used to forge a massive inventory space. Without a second thought, he fuses the dragon's heart with the Michelangelo ore. The resulting fusion generates a colossal storage dimension able to contain more than 5,000 kilograms. Just then, the auction's host rushes over to express his gratitude to Kang Jin Hyuk. His son is by his side, also thanking our hero for their rescue. But Kang desperately needed that mineral, so he cooks up a quick lie. He claims he didn't really require that particular item. The host waves it off, insisting it's perfectly fine. He had seen Kang right before the chaos erupted and knows he was their savior. Because of that, he couldn't possibly point fingers at the very man who saved his only child. Kang is genuinely impressed. He's never encountered someone with this kind of integrity before. After the host agrees to look the other way, Kang departs with his newly acquired treasures. We cut to the third floor of the Tower of Trials. Inside a place known as the Cathedral of Aversion, within its walls, someone is using a massive shield to fend off a storm of arrows. A furious woman gripes, "Why is the security here so ridiculously tight?" She turns to her partner, asking, "Seriously, do we have to go through this mess every single time we come here?" Her companion snaps back, "I'm still pissed about Alex getting taken out." The woman retorts, "And I'm supposed to care about your feelings. Why?" Before aiming her weapon right at him. Just then, a third figure appears, commanding them to stand down. It's a man concealed by a black cloak and a distinctive white raven mask. "You've been partners for over 10 years, he says calmly. "Quit trying to kill each other. I summoned you both here because of a new name that's just popped up on the blacklist, Kang Jin Hyuk." The woman just scoffs. "I'm sure he's played a few rounds before. He's just like all the other so-called rankers." But their leader warns her, "Don't get cocky. There's a chance he's already climbed higher than any of us." She shoots back, "Our old bosses were nuts enough to make it all the way to the 20th floor." Her partner chimes in, agreeing that the masked man is overreacting. Their whole reason for choosing the Tower of Trials was to stay off the radar of international law enforcement. No other crew has a reason like that. She questions, "Why would anyone else stick with this game unless they were a total psycho?" The masked man sees they aren't taking this seriously, but at least they're on the same page. "Even so," he insists, "you cannot afford to underestimate Kang, no matter how many threats you've dealt with in the past." He then commands them to find Kedrick. He instructs them to assist Kedrick so that his plan doesn't fall apart this time around. The scene shifts again, now showing two people sparring in Muay Thai, both wearing protective equipment. But a woman unleashes a kick so powerful, it completely shreds the guy's protective gear. After their session, he tells the woman, Nuna, to check out a video on his tablet. The footage in question is of that masked guy he's been tracking for some time. Nuna glances at it and asks, "Isn't he just another one of those star players?" The young man shakes his head. "No, there's something else going on with him." She instantly recognizes the setting, the Temple of the Human-Faced Trees, home to the third-floor boss. The young man says, "That place is legendary. If you can answer 3 of its questions correctly, you get a reward, an item, or a skill. The catch is, the questions are insanely hard. Like, basically impossible for anyone to get right." In the live chat, viewers are confused. Wait, wasn't he supposed to be crushing the boss? Some even speculate he's just a random guy in a costume pretending to be the famous player. On screen, the human-faced tree speaks. "It has been quite some time since a human has paid us a visit." It continues. "Have you come to answer our riddles?" Our hero coolly responds, "Bring on your best." The tree then lays out the terms. "Should you succeed in answering all 3 of my questions, I shall grant you a special leaf from my very own branches. But be warned, answer even a single one incorrectly, and you will face punishment. A punishment delivered by the other trees that have sprouted limbs and are now brandishing weapons." And with that, the first question is posed to our protagonist. He's asked to state the perfect depth and temperature for the Kelgorn species to thrive. The viewers are floored, thinking it's an impossible question for any player. But for our hero, it was nothing more than a simple trivia question. He answered without hesitation that the perfect depth is 175 meters and the ideal temperature is 1.5 degrees. The audience watching the stream was stunned by how easily he replied, overcome with confidence. The ancient tree urged him to proceed to the next question, already sure that he was correct. The tree itself was at a loss for words, but it promised the next one wouldn't be so simple. It then demanded to know the method for acquiring the spongy body of a Falani. Our protagonist proceeded to explain it with perfect detail. The tree was utterly astounded. It moved on to its final challenge, asking for the specific time of year when giant eagles reproduce. Our hero calmly bowed, hit the buzzer, and announced, "The answer is whenever snow begins to fall on the tower." The tree confirmed he was correct, making him the very first human to successfully answer all of its questions. It added that it had thoroughly enjoyed the challenge. The live chat absolutely exploded, with everyone shouting that they'd never seen anyone win this quiz before. For his reward, he could have his pick of any maple leaf he wanted, with the choices being red, yellow, and green. The game explained that the red leaves held a fire attribute, while the yellow ones boosted defense. Lastly, the green leaves granted a buff to movement speed. Nuno was convinced that the man should pick the speed-enhancing leaves, since he was about to fight the third floor's boss. But when it came time to choose, he completely ignored those standard options. He was after something much rarer, walking right up to the tree. He leaned in and whispered, asking for the secret black leaves. At that moment, the monster was completely taken aback, asking, "How could you possibly know about the black leaves?" It begged him to pick any other reward, even offering to give him both the red and green leaves combined. But Kang simply reminded the tree of its promise, any leaf he desired if he answered the questions. He therefore told it to cut the crap and immediately hand over the black leaf, unless it wanted to bring shame upon its ancestral spirits. He then threatened it, asking what the system management might do if he reported this little incident. For his victory over the tree spirit, he received the black leaves, a double A-grade item capable of inflicting a corruption effect on any weapon or armor. It was the final piece he needed. Now, all the mysterious figure had to do was wipe out the giant monsters in the vicinity before making his exit. Word on the street was that this unknown player had already started the third-floor boss raid all by himself. People commented that this was happening far sooner than expected, and now all they had to do was stick around for a little while before heading home. They started questioning if guarding this place was even necessary, since nobody would be insane enough to wander in here, but they were sure there was a good reason for it, and decided that debating it further would get them nowhere. Then, in an instant, everyone vanished. Black portals yawned open at their feet, dragging the guards deep underground. The demonic humans commanded them to protect their life force, since their goal was to gather as much of it as possible. We then cut to Julius Cedric, who grumbles that the damn unknown player has already kicked off the raid. Meanwhile, our protagonist was busy fighting his way through monsters on his third-floor mission, and the live chat was calling him terrifying. They all wondered if he could actually defeat the boss alone. Some argued that from the moment they tuned in, they could just tell he was the real deal. Others, however, were convinced he stood no chance of winning against the boss by himself. The unknown player finally spoke up, saying, "It doesn't matter if you believe me or not, you're all annoying. Shut up." But the chat refused to accept that he was talking directly to them, let alone insulting them like that. He confirmed it, adding, "Yeah, I'm talking to you. If you don't like what you see, then you can just leave the live stream." He noted how most streamers chase conventional praise, which usually ties directly to their viewer count, but he had a different strategy. By showing this abrasive side of himself from the very beginning, he knew he'd cultivate a fandom of people who actually enjoyed that kind of personality, and sure enough, the chat was eating it up, calling him chic and hilarious. They weren't the least bit annoyed. As our protagonist pushed deeper into the third floor, a massive purple explosion erupted in the distance. The blast caught his eye, making him wonder if someone else was in the raid. A moment later, he abruptly ended the broadcast, which sent the chat into an absolute meltdown. Shortly after, a flood of people swarmed the floor, attacking the creatures. They were demonic humans, cloaked in black and wielding dark magic to cut down the monsters. A full-scale war broke out between the creatures of the third floor and the invading demonic humans. Our hero watched from a distance, noting how remarkably coordinated the demons were. He could also see a clear improvement in their fighting style compared to their previous encounters. All of a sudden, the demonic humans shouted a warning that soldiers were approaching, forcing them to press their assault. They decided to used this chaos to their advantage and overwhelmed the creatures. However, their ranks were being picked off by long-range attacks coming from out of nowhere. In response, they summoned protective shields, desperately trying to find the source of the projectiles. That's when they saw him, a lone, masked man hurling deadly shards of ice at them. Seeing that he was alone, the necromancers and their summoned creatures moved in to eliminate him. Skeleton archers unleashed a volley of arrows at our hero. He sprinted at incredible speed, effortlessly dodging every shot, causing some arrows to strike the raid monsters instead. He then activated his Star's Blessing ability, firing a brilliant beam of light at the CC creatures. His divine power completely severed the necromancers' link to their summons, leaving them unable to control their minions. They had to act fast to regain control. But suddenly, a giant monster crashed into their formation, sending demonic humans flying. It stumbled toward Lord Cedric, screaming that Team 3 had been completely annihilated. Cedric could already see what was Seoul happening. He didn't need a report. To control the undead, Cedric had divided his forces into 4 teams, and now Team 3 was gone. If Team 1 fell too, the entire connection he'd established to control them would shatter, completely destroying his plan, our protagonist. However, just kept pushing forward, taunting. "You'll never catch me, being so slow." Giant battle moai statues erupted from the ground, chasing after the high-level newcomer. The demonic humans were in utter shock, frantically searching for where the masked man had disappeared to. They couldn't spot him anywhere until he suddenly materialized right behind 2 of them. He declared, "Demonic humans, you cannot stop me." The 2 were so stunned they couldn't react before the battle moai statues crushed them into dust. A panic-stricken voice cried out that Team 1 was being wiped out, and if they fell, the rest of them would be surrounded. Julius roared, "You are all ruining my plan. What is wrong with my subordinates?" He then activated the pool Pyramid Guardian ability with his Skull Scepter. His men warned him that using it would leave him without enough mana to take on the boss. He snarled that he would use every last bit of his power to eliminate our protagonist. He commanded the mummies he'd summoned to awaken, calling them his guardians. But at that very moment, he collapsed, to his knees, utterly drained of energy. "I have exceeded my limits," he gasped. He ordered a demonic human to approach him, then laid a hand on his subordinate's shoulder. He began to siphon his own minion's life force to recover his strength. He whispered to him, "Be quiet, it will hurt more if you resist." The masked man thought he was completely insane for absorbing his own comrade's soul. After the twisted ritual, Cedric felt much better, his eyes glowing a menacing red. He told the protagonist, "Let's start our battle anew. Now I have mummies by my side." The mummies shot toward our hero at high speed, and the enraged old man cackled. "What do you think of my army? It is stronger. Now." He boasted that his mummy soldiers could freely manipulate their bandages as if they were made of metal. These were superior undead, possessing both incredible offensive and defensive abilities. They began tearing into the third-floor monsters with their metallic wrappings. Cedric had planned to save them for the boss fight, but he was certain it would be worth it to finally get rid of our hero. He screamed at the masked man, "Go straight to hell!" The pair watching from earlier realized that this masked bastard was even more skilled than they had imagined. They hadn't seen Cedric act this flustered in a very long time. They thought his actions were becoming reckless. He wasn't even bothering to calculate the power difference between himself and his opponent. The unknown player must think he can take him on after seeing the skeletons and the knight. This was a terrible miscalculation, as Julius's innate ability is a much bigger problem than his monsters. Since things had escalated to this point, they figured they wouldn't even need to intervene. Suddenly, the fight became much more explosive and drew dangerously close to the duo. The masked man was reminded of an experience from a game a long time ago. A bearded old man once advised him that his blade was strong, but he was putting too much raw force into it, which was dispersing its power. Explained that a true master could slice through anything with a simple string, like the wind gathers its power. The key was to move his blade with fluidity, not force. Then, at the perfect moment, he had to release all that stored energy, using a string to prove his point. The old man then offered to teach him the pendulum spirit sword arts. Now, our hero was able to replicate a portion of what he'd learned. With this technique, he could make his sword dance like a pendulum, cutting down waves of monsters. His skill with the art skyrocketed, letting him effortlessly tear through hordes of mummies. Cedric couldn't believe a magical vortex could be powerful enough to devour its surroundings. This terrifying whirlpool was a product of the pendulum spirit sword art. Our hero then unleashed the fifth form pendulum spirit Nirvana. This move created a gargantuan maelstrom that ripped everything from the ground and obliterated whatever it touched. In a panic, Cedric summoned his double shield ability to defend himself from the onslaught. Cedric roared in fury. How did he get this strong in less than 6 months since the world changed? His shield began to spiderweb with cracks as he felt the full crushing force of our hero's spell. In an instant, his barrier shattered completely, and the pendulum spirit maelstrom swallowed him whole. The spell faded, leaving the demonic human grievously injured on the floor. He knew this was a fight he could never win and that he had to escape. He started screaming for his underlings to stop this man and protect him at all costs. The masked man just scoffed. He was just like his followers. The moment he knew he'd lose, even after all his blustering, his only instinct was to run for his life. Pathetically. Cedric heard this and finally realized he was facing Kang Jin Hyuk. He muttered to an unseen Julius, "Pass a message to your disciple for me. Tell him Kang defeated me too." The demonic human leader then shrieked in agony as Jin's magic set him ablaze. The masked man added, "Tell his disciple I'm sending this one along so he won't get lonely." In mere moments, Cedric was entirely incinerated by our hero's magical inferno, utterly erased. Following this, the necromancer's summoned abominations began to crumble to dust across the battlefield. The remaining demonic humans were stunned into silence, realizing Cedric had fallen, and their morale completely shattered. As despair took hold, they were systematically wiped out by the native monsters of the third floor. Using Pendulum Spirit Nirvana had been incredibly draining, leaving our hero on the verge of collapse. Because of this, he bought 4 medium mana recovery potions. Still, after all that effort, it would be a total waste not to face the boss. He resolved to see it through, downing the potions to restore his energy. He then saw a shield hurtling his way, which triggered a faint sense of déjà vu, scooping up the small shield and strapping it to his arm. Fragmented memories began to return. He saw himself facing gigantic foes, with this very sword and shield in hand. The temple guardians of the 4 great heavenly kings materialized before him. Our protagonist readied himself to take on the colossal statues. The monsters swung at him, but he expertly parried with his shield. As he dodged their blows, he commented, "For statues, you're all pretty quiet." He then used his purple blade to land a series of surgical strikes on the guardians. He demanded, "Just hand over the keys. I'm getting tired of this." The temple guardians were taken aback by the boy's incredible power. Our hero leaped into the air and crashed down on them, shattering parts of their stone bodies, including their heads, blocking their counterattacks with his shield. He started to recognize the Guardians' attack patterns. One of them finally presented the Stone Pagoda of Illumination. It was a unique key that looked just like a golden flower. This key, the only way into the main boss hall, began to hum with power and emit a soft glow. At that moment, the being waiting beyond the portal began to answer the Guardian summons. Our hero had to admit, this entity was far more persistent than he had anticipated. Without warning, a massive orange lotus flower bloomed in the centers of the chamber. Countless golden hands erupted from it, cracking the very ground. Out of thin air, the 1,000-armed, 1,000-eyed monster, Avalokiteshvara, appeared. It had been a very long time since the 4 heavenly kings had last summoned this divine entity. Avalokiteshvara hadn't expected to find a human among the invaders who could actually threaten the sacred key, but our protagonist was unfazed. "This is nothing. I'm here to eliminate this floor's boss." The 1,000-armed monster seemed to acknowledge our hero's audacity. Kang was exhausted and just wanted to finish this. The creature, however, seemed to want a conversation. Our hero began to float off the ground, declaring, "I don't waste my time talking to statues." The monster retorted, "Every second is a treasure. You are a truly complete human." As weapons began to form in its many hands, it commanded, "Burn this moment into your memory. You'll miss it when you're on the brink of death." Our hero raised his shield as the entity prepared to unleash a devastating attack. The assault was unbelievably powerful, but the masked hero dodged it with inhuman speed. Even so, his shield started to splinter under the barrage. He had braced for overwhelming strength, but this was enough to nearly tear him in two. He had to hold on. He only had one chance to pull this off. The entity was shocked that he could react to an attack that moved at the speed of sound. Its fascination with the masked hero grew, and it prepared another volley. In response, our protagonist unleashed a torrent of ice. He conjured massive ice spikes to intercept the creature's assault. Its golden spear shattered the ice, but failed to reach him. This infuriated the statue, which complained that he was using disgusting Western sorcery. Suddenly, our protagonist threw his shield, and the statue caught it with contemptuous ease. It sneered. That was a truly pathetic and foolish trick for a mere human. But then, the shield began to glow with a corrupted crimson energy. The statue insisted. Another cheap ploy that has failed, Avalokiteshvara declared. Something like poison has no effect on me. Our hero simply explained. This is called the blood demon's IQ. It inflicts continuous damage. The moment it lands a wound, the statue dismissed his words. It doesn't matter. A low-level trick like that won't work twice. It then added, even if you hit me, what good would tearing off one of my many arms do? Our hero replied, taking your arms is trivial if I want you eliminated. And with that, he revealed that he had already accomplished his goal, holding a brilliant blue orb in his hands. The statue finally realized his true objective from the start was the arm that held the jewel. Our hero mocked it. Blame your own arrogance for thinking of it as just one insignificant arm. After all, Kang Jin now combined the grimoire of the principality with the jewel from the thousand-armed monster. Once the two items merged, he created the S-rank Lemegeton of the Golden Dawn. This divine artifact, one of Solomon's own grimoires, grants the user to push his magical talents to their absolute limit. Our protagonist activates the Eye of Gluttony, certain that this will be all he needs. He pulls up the status window, but for the thousand-armed Avalokiteshvara, there's no age or level listed. To copy its skill, he has to mock the creature for 5 minutes while creating an ice sculpture of it. On top of that, he needs to have a song playing and be wearing the right outfit to seal the deal. Our hero thinks the conditions a song and a sculpture are completely absurd. The system is definitely getting weirder, but he knows he's more than capable of pulling it off. He summons a music player, determined not to back down, no matter how bizarre the requirement. This is the only way he can get his hands on the mandala skill below the 25th floor. The thousand-armed statue looks on, baffled by what our protagonist is doing. Suddenly, music starts to play, and he begs the monster, please, just don't ask any questions. He's just as disgusted by this ridiculous charade as anyone would be. Then, he slaps on a wig. The statue's patience wears thin as it watches the bizarre performance unfolding before it. Avalokiteshvara activates its mandala and launches an attack on our hero. It vows to make Kang Jin Hyuk suffer the agony of 1,000,000 reincarnations. In response, our protagonist summons a glacial formation to defend himself. The wall of ice successfully blocks the golden statue's onslaught. Our hero can't help but be impressed by this advanced version of his ice formation. The spectators watching the battle can't process what they're seeing. The masked man just started playing music and is now going toe-to-toe with the thousand-armed beast. His mastery over ice magic has clearly reached a whole new level. They're also wondering why on earth he's wearing a wig he bought from the game store. The guy is completely unpredictable, challenging a monster of this caliber right after taking down Cedric. The sheer force of the thousand-armed Avalokiteshvara is something that usually only players who've cleared the 10th floor can handle. They agree he's earned the title of the 3rd floor's second boss with that kind of raw power. But anyone who would willingly face a creature like that has already transcended the limits of a normal human. A woman turns to her companion, asking, "You think we could win if we teamed up with him?" She then says to her partner, Li Chao, "We can't handle this by ourselves. We need to call in an executive." Li fires back, "If we do that, the rank we've fought so hard for will be gone." He continues, "I'm not getting wiped out over this. It's time I used my coin." When the woman sees him clutch the coin pulsing with purple energy, a smile spreads across her face. The protagonist realizes Julius wasn't the only agent sent by the demonic humans. At that exact moment, he falters under one of the statue's blows and winces in pain. The creature roars with fury, screaming, "You dared to rip out one of my eyes." It then channels the fire element, while our hero mutters, "I got distracted fixing my hair." He immediately consults his grimoire and summons another glacial formation, this time infusing it with fire. Feeling the pressure from his opponent, he unleashes a volley of ice lances straight at the statue. The thousand-armed beast starts smashing the ice projectiles with its arsenal of weapons. But our seasoned hero doesn't let up. Continuing to launch a relentless barrage of glacial spikes, the statue keeps shattering them, calling him a fool. The thousand-armed Avalokitesvara then activates the great, inescapable net. It taunts him. Is cowering behind your defenses all you can do? Seething with rage, it prepares a colossal attack and yells, "Where's all that confidence you had earlier?" It uses the amalgamation of heaven and earth within the net, creating an attack that the protagonist has no hope of dodging. Kang Jin throws up an ice barrier to shield himself from the enemy's flurry of strikes. The golden statue scoffs. Your resistance is futile. It then uses its disapproval ability and summons the swastika spear. The swastika, a symbol in Buddhism, forms into a spear that the statue wields, charging straight for our protagonist. With a single powerful thrust, the ice barrier is completely shattered. The statue gloats, confident that it has finally injured our hero. The protagonist just laughs at the monster's claim that a cheap trick wouldn't work twice. As he emerges from the net with magic crackling in his hand, he retorts, "Actually, it worked perfectly." He then gathers his energy, casting a spell to create a glacial prison. The massive cage of ice completely encases the thousand-armed monster. Our protagonist asks, "It really hurts my feelings how much you hate my ice magic." He continues, "How can a being who claims to have found nirvana through enlightenment be so narrow-minded? Looks like some shock therapy is just what you need." With that, Kang Jin Hyuk begins the final step, sculpting an ice statue of Avalokitesvara. This sends the real statue into a frenzy, making it want to inflict eternal torment on the human. It screams, "I'll make sure you reincarnate as a worthless insect." But it's too late. The condition has been met, and he successfully copies the S-rank mandala skill. This is a special ability that allows the user to imbue their own unique power into their weapons. The newly acquired skill is instantly saved to the world's memories. Our protagonist then rips off his wig and summons the mandala skill. The statue is utterly stunned. It stammers, How? How can you use my power? How did you replicate my mandala, a technique I perfected through countless eons of suffering?" Our protagonist doesn't bother answering, simply assuring the statue that he will put its mandala to very good use. He then manifests a giant arm made of ice and sends it flying toward his enemy. It smashes into the creature's chest, causing an explosion of pain. In a flash, the golden statue is utterly obliterated by its very own technique. For defeating Avalokitesvara, Kang Jin Hyuk levels up twice. He also obtains the stone statue key, the item needed to summon the third-floor boss. He always hated dealing with that golden statue, even more than the actual floor boss. Taking down both Cedric and the thousand-armed monster took a serious toll on Kang. He decides to dump his new attribute points into mana, bumping it up. From 71 to 77, he immediately feels lighter and knows it was the right call. Still, he feels like he needs an even bigger mana boost, and then remembers he still has a few plagues he can use. The environment inside the Tower of Trials is unique. As night falls, the temperature plummets, while the monster's aggression and strength skyrocket. This forces most players to abandon the hunt at night and retreat to a safe zone. Our protagonist, on the other hand, is casually sitting by a campfire, grilling up a giant shrimp. This particular kind of shrimp is a delicacy that can only be found on the third floor. As he takes a bite, he's pleasantly surprised by the incredible taste, a flavor he hadn't experienced in what felt like a lifetime. Suddenly, he notices figures approaching, drawn in by the delicious aroma of his meal. Cooking, the newcomers, a duo, explain they're searching for a place to crash for the night. They cautiously ask if they can join Kang, but our protagonist doesn't reply right away. Instead, he motions for them to sit and escape the cold. The pair thanks him, introducing themselves as Melina and Lai Chao, and admit they've been through some tough times. Seeing he cooked way too much, Kang offers them some food. While they're grateful for the gesture, they say they can't accept food from someone they don't know. He then switches gears, asking if his mask bothers them. Lee immediately shoots back, "Yes, because it means you have secrets." Our hero casually replies that if it's such an issue, he's willing to take it off for them. This gets the duo's hopes up. as they're dying to see who is under the mask. However, Kang then adds that just revealing his face would be too boring. So, he suggests a little game if they can answer 3 of his questions. The mask comes off. Mask! Lee's mind starts racing. He figures they can just lie through the questions without any issues. After all, there's no way this guy could tell if they're telling the truth, and while they have no idea what he's really up to, it feels like there's no harm in playing along. With that decided, Lee grabs a coin and flips it to see who will be the first one to take on the question game.